Most dungeon conquests end in human victory due to the relationship between humans, who can attack whenever they want, and monsters who must always be prepared to defend being unfair. Continuous wars only cause dungeons to erupt violently. However, during the era when countless dungeons were conquered and created, exceptions emerged, dungeons that humans could not conquer. Thinking back, it seems obvious. Various dungeons, or more accurately, the 7 Great Dungeons. These 7 Great Dungeons have temporarily not been conquered by humans and are deemed unconquerable. However, among these 7 infamous Great Dungeons, the Ancient Core is the most sinister. There, many monsters protect the dungeon's guardians, guarding 3 different paths. The red path is guarded by a tiny person named Handmaiden Renee. The main blue path is guarded by a skeleton named Padric, a death knight, and the right path, an extremely filthy place, currently has no accurate information about it. The number of tentacles is unknown, and the creature ruling this impregnable fortress, an ancient monster that appeared on the first page in the Empire's mythology, is named Devourer. It was written like that. Renee, holding a book, spoke up after distributing it by his order. The number of intruders has increased. The giant creature across from her clapped in satisfaction. See, there's no way to maintain a dungeon if there are too many mysteries around us. No one would dare come near. It continued. We need to give them a bit of information like this to make them think they know a lot about this dungeon. Something like that. They'll rush in like moths to a flame, not knowing that more than half of that information is wrong. Then it rested its chin on its hand, pondering. Still, I didn't expect them to come in such numbers. A total of 74, right? Yes, but most of their weapons were melted by 116 tentacles, so they're unusable now. The things that are still usable are quite expensive, but, she continued in a somber tone, if it were Renee, she could have handled them without causing any damage. The creature looked at her, then closed its eyes in agreement. It began to transform its body. A golden eye appeared on its white face. Human arms. Then the creature fully transformed into a young man approaching Renee and patting her head. Of course you could do it, Renee. The girl being patted on the head became so happy that she laughed out loud. Suddenly a third voice interrupted. Excuse me, but we're here to have a meeting, right? Or are we just here to play? Padric lost his patience. Why are you two so excited? Then he laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha! The atmosphere here is so cheerful that being near you two makes my teeth ache, he continued. It's not just my teeth, my skull is aching too. And if you're going to transform, why not do it properly? Do you realize you have 6 fingers? Devourer. Hearing this, he looked at his hand. Oh right, I have 6 fingers, Padric continued. But it's still better than last time. Last time you had 10 teeth. Your laugh sent chills down my spine. Renee spoke up in annoyance. Padric, your teeth are clattering too loudly. She even looked at him with fiery eyes and a clenched fist, making Padric think to himself that he couldn't take it anymore and should quit this guard position. The girl took out a stack of papers. Then Renee will get straight to the main point. She distributed the papers while continuing. Renee thinks you both already know, but humans are starting to enter from the right side. The issue is that the 116 black tentacles guarding the right entrance are severely injured. The situation is critical, but Devourer yawned, interrupting her. Don't worry, the tentacle's regeneration ability is top-notch. If the situation doesn't improve, we can watch over it for a short while and then find another guardian. Boss Padric spoke up with great enthusiasm. Boss, then can you find 2 guardians right away? I also want to take a break. He immediately objected. What are you talking about? You're my lifelong slave. Then he continued. From now on, humans will only enter through the right entrance, Padric added. They might form another conquest team as we discussed. The girl followed. Humans these days often use communication charms to contact each other a lot, so information about the right path being open will spread everywhere. Devourer slammed his hand on the table. Enough. Then his face turned cold. We should also come up with a strategy. Listen carefully. We're going to change the mission. Then he began to explain. First, Renee, you're guarding the red entrance, right? From now on, I want you to guard the infection entrance. The main groups will think that place is open and enter through there, so we just need you to protect that place. The girl was excited. Renee can handle as many people as needed. As for the red entrance that Renee is guarding, you take that place, Padrick. Me? Why? He explained. When humans realize Renee is no longer at the red entrance, they'll shift their focus there. You'll protect that place. He clapped his hands together. If we do this, we can withstand 2 waves of attacks. Wait, boss. What are you going to do if humans enter the blue entrance? Devourer paused. All 3 of them paused simultaneously. Then he evaded. We have no other choice. If we do that, they'll come straight to us. Then Devourer just has to eat them. Padrick was disheartened. What kind of terrible plan is this? Renee reacted perfectly opposite. It's perfect, Lord Swallow. I don't know. The girl continued. It seems the most difficult issue has been resolved. Now we just need to decide what to do with that sword. Devourer wondered. Sword. What sword is she talking about? The sword used by the leader of the conquest team. Padrick continued. I can't believe he's using such a sword. This time the humans coming here are quite strong. I told you what sword. Surely you've heard of this sword before. He looked around over there. Then he reached out and grabbed the hilt of the sword. The 36 virtuous masterpieces. It's a quite famous sword among humans. Some of them aren't even weapons. I think the 14th one is called Tanabel. Devourer scratched his head. I remember 36 something, right? I think we have a few of those in storage. Masterpieces, I told you about them. The sword Renee is using is also one of the 36 masterpieces. Devourer pondered. This time humans have found a good weapon, huh? What should we do with this? If we give it to one of the monsters near the entrance, it'll just be taken back. If humans retrieve this, we'll be in trouble, right? Padrick sighed and handed the sword to him. So you take it, boss? Devourer asked back. You're not using the sword, just take it. Padrick was confused. What? Then he asked again, really? Yes. Padrick quickly changed his expression, his face beaming with happiness as he exclaimed, Then I have no other choice since it's your order. This is the ancient core, a place with a fearsome dwarf handmaiden, and a death knight emitting an aura of death, and where a giant ancient monster sleeps. Devourer slumped on the table. Since I've given you that sword, I want you to tear up the resignation letter you're hiding in your ribs, Padrick. Renee Sunflower just looked at Lord Swallow. Padrick, the only sane person left in this dungeon, and a master of nagging boss. Swallow a very lazy ancient monster. The girl continued. Lord Swallow, what should we do with the remaining spoils? Padrick is preoccupied with receiving that sword. I'm very happy to get this. He rested his chin on his hand, pondering. Just do as usual. Use whatever is usable, and use whatever is useless as bait for the next bastards. The girl smiled brightly. Understood, I'll handle the distribution, Lord Swallow. Padrick showed a bored expression. This time she's going to work again, huh? The girl continued. The issue here is that no monster particularly needs magical items. Or should we take the mana stones and sell them? That would help us earn quite a bit of money, he pondered. Oh, really? Well, it's been a while. The next words he spoke made both of them feel incredulous. Should we go to the human village? Both of them exclaimed loudly, startling Devourer. Why so surprised? They broke into a sweat and started speaking. Wouldn't it be better to send Renee instead? Devourer, annoyed, slammed his tail on the ground. So what? You're quite clumsy at transforming into a human, aren't you? You're showing your tail. He was hit where it hurt and couldn't retort. Padrick continued speaking when he saw his annoyed expression. What's wrong? Devourer conceded. Fine, but make sure to bring back lots of delicious food. Renee started walking. She looked up at the sky and couldn't help but remark. The weather is quite nice today. Renee smiled softly. Now I'll be off, Lord Swallow. The girl entered a shop. The owner scrutinized the items she brought in her cloth bag, then spoke up. All right, kid. I'm sorry, but I can't buy these things from you. His words immediately made Renee's expression turn sour. Why not? The owner continued. Well, he bent down and rummaged through something. Let's see. Then he placed a stone on the table while explaining. This is a rank B mana stone. Commoners like you usually have to save for 10 years to afford one of these. Then he compared it to the stones Renee brought. But the ones she brought were larger. See, stones like these can't be used unless you reach the level of a royal mage or a high-level mage from the magic tower. Well, maybe a jeweler with a contract with the royal palace or a branch of the magic tower could handle this. The capital or the magic tower, huh? Renee considered. The capital is too far, so I'll have to go to the magic tower, huh? The girl held the bag of magic stones while thinking to herself that she didn't want to go to the magic tower. But if it was for Lord Devourer, then she walked out the door. I'm off. Take care, kid. He noticed a huge stone left on the table and couldn't help but be surprised. He called out after her, Hey kid, you forgot one here. Renee turned her head and explained. That's a tip. Thank you for the information, human. The shop owner could only comment. What a strange kid. You're a human too, aren't you? Renee quickly arrived at the magic tower. A few people at the gate enthusiastically guided her. So you're here to sell mana stones. If so, consulting the guildmaster would be better. All right. Renee followed someone. We'll guide you to the office. Please follow me. So this place is designed so that the tower's owner resides on the top floor. The human magic tower is similar to a dungeon. This way, a red-haired girl greeted Renee with a bright smile. Thank you for coming all the way here. I'm the head of this branch of the magic tower. She opened her eyes simultaneously, exuding pressure. This human possesses impressive mana. I'm Ren. I was going to ignore you since you're just a child, but the guard said you brought a pile of mana stones. You must be familiar with the magic tower's reputation, right? I believe you've brought high-quality mana stones befitting our status. Renee emptied her bag. The stones fell surprising amo. See for yourself. They're rank mana stones. She picked them up and examined them. These stones are of the highest quality comparable to the finest rank mana stones. Not something a kid could have. Who is this kid? Where did you get these? Wait. Thinking carefully, that hair color. There's a family with silver hair among the Empire's 8 great families. Could it be that the daughter of that family ran away from home and secretly brought these mana stones here? Anthropopago continued to ponder. I can't think of any other possibility for a kid to possess mana stones of this level. No matter what, this girl must be a noble lady, and the world is a dark place. I apologize for my rude attitude. I didn't expect them to be high-quality mana stones. Our branch wants to buy all of them. 50 gold coins per stone. Is that okay? We'll offer a special price of 80 gold coins for exceptionally high-quality ones. Renee frowned. 50 gold coins. She remembered the shop owner's words. Commoners like you usually have to save for 10 years to afford one of these. She estimated that an average commoner earns 10 gold coins a year, so 15 years would be 100 gold coins. She warned the human. Don't mess with me or you'll die. Anthropopago flinched. Yes, sorry, my bad. It seems this girl knows more than I thought. She changed her attitude. Actually, even if we used all the money in our branch, we wouldn't be able to buy all of them right away. Then buy as much as you can. A scale was brought out. 2,000 gold coins. This is all we have. We can provide items of equivalent value in exchange for all the mana stones. Is that okay? Renee looked at the gold scale. She picked up 1 gold coin and examined it. Are you sure about the quality of these items? They should be easy to sell. You don't need to worry about that. Then Antro pointed. Please go this way. I'll show you those items right away. This place is usually off limits to outsiders. But for you, Lady Ren, we've made an exception. They climbed the stairs to another place. Indeed, this is our tower's storage room. This is a crown made of 4-carat diamonds. The mana stones embedded in the center make it even more useful for mages. This is a living black pearl. It will emit cries if the wearer comes into contact with poison. It's a product of alchemy. Renee was intrigued. Alchemy. She stared at it intently. Antro was flustered. Oh, Lady Ren, doesn't it suit your taste? Well, alchemy isn't exactly a clean field. Many people find it disgusting. Then she pointed to something else. What about this? It's called the Love Stone. It's said to be a gem that can make love come true. Renee was captivated. A gem that can make love come true, Antro explained. If you pour mana into the stone in front of the person you love, it's said that the spirit within the stone will bring eternal love to the two of you. Renee was excited. Anyone? Yes, I swear on the Magic Tower's name. Antro continued to ask. Does it suit your taste? Renee hurriedly replied. I must have this stone, Antro laughed. I'm not sure about the other items, but this one might be a bit difficult. Since it could steal even the Emperor's heart? It's a priceless item. The girl paused, then gritted her teeth and negotiated. What about this? Antra was stunned when she saw it. How did you get this? All the mana stones before plus this. Give me that stone. From inside the guild, a voice called out, Guildmaster. Inside the room, a young man who seemed to be an assistant stammered, Are you really going to trade that crystal, Guildmaster? She still looked optimistic and satisfied, not hesitant like him. She suddenly replied, So what? The assistant panicked. He questioned her. Don't you know what that item is? If you send that girl away like this, she'll surely die. The Guildmaster acted as if nothing had happened. She fiddled with a small magnifying glass in her hand while saying, What's the big deal? The Guildmaster happily sat and admired the precious stones she had acquired. She said, That naive, noble lady has exchanged for the item she wanted, and it's truly expensive. The assistant, hearing this, was still uneasy, but didn't know how to respond. He only hesitated. But still, the Guildmaster seemed to have lost patience with the assistant. She looked at the precious stone in her hand with an unreadable expression and said, Hey, don't worry. There won't be any problems. That unfortunate girl will die right after the curse is lifted, and the person she likes will too. So there won't be any traces left. At this moment, Renee was on her way back. She held in her arms the item she had just exchanged with the Guildmaster, walking and laughing happily, as if she had found a treasure, unaware of the danger lurking within that item. The assistant, hearing the Guildmaster's words, seemed too afraid to continue questioning. He only dared to add, I don't know who they are, but I feel so sorry for them. The scene shifted to Chaite Castle, one of the 7 great dungeons. The area around this castle was shrouded in a gloomy, haunting atmosphere. Inside the castle, a woman was holding a pair of scissors and a comb. She spoke with an unreadable expression. Your end is death. Then she decisively raised the scissors and cut down. A small tuft of hair immediately fell. Renee was now sitting obediently in front of the mirror, letting the red-haired woman cut her hair. She glanced at her with a guilty look and then spoke up. I'm sorry for coming here without notice. I owe you so much. You always help me. The woman focused on cutting Renee's hair, comforted her. Neighbors should care for each other, right? This woman was the boss of the Tlizabeth Batory dungeon. She smiled gently at Renee and suddenly complimented her. Moreover, I really enjoy seeing your cute appearance, Renee. Tlizabeth continued to sweet-talk Renee. No matter what I do, you're still beautiful. These words made the girl blush, unsure how to respond. She put the comb in her hand down and continued. Honestly, times like this make me envy those dwarves. Then Tlizabeth hugged Renee's small face. I never thought this beautiful face would never age. Renee, being praised, also looked at Tlizabeth and complimented her. You look very young too, Lady Batory. Your skin is even whiter than Renee's. Tlizabeth had finished cutting Renee's hair and started cleaning up. Hearing Renee's words, she happily replied, Oh my, you're too kind. Do you know how much blood and cosmetics I have to use every day? Along with her words was the sight of pots and pans, each smeared with blood, piled up in a corner of the room, looking utterly horrifying. Suddenly, Renee stood up from the chair in front of the mirror and called out, Elizabeth! Then she asked a seemingly random question that left Tlizabeth momentarily stunned. How do you see Renee now? When Tlizabeth regained her composure, she looked Renee up and down and didn't hesitate to praise her. Of course, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. She then approached and gently patted Renee's shoulder. I guarantee it. She pointed at the image of the shy, blushing girl in the mirror. No one would dare reject this appearance of yours. Renee, hearing this, laughed in embarrassment. Tlizabeth, after speaking, continued cleaning. While she was tidying up, she seemed to remember something and asked, By the way, why are you dressing up like this? Tlizabeth guessed. Don't tell me you're planning to confess your love. Renee was now lost in thought, looking at herself in the mirror. Then suddenly she took out the heartstone she had obtained from the Guildmaster and held it in her hand, examining it while muttering, Confess my love. Then Renee suddenly burst out laughing. She turned her radiant, smiling face to Tlizabeth and loudly replied to her earlier playful question. Yes, I will confess my love. Elizabeth, hearing the girl suddenly say this, froze in confusion, looking at Renee, who was happily laughing to herself. She was speechless. When she regained her composure, she suddenly shouted in shock. "What, really? I was just joking. So who is it?" Renee, being asked, had an infatuated look in her eyes. "Lord Devourer." Renee's answer left Elizabeth speechless. Part 2. She couldn't describe her own feelings at this moment upon hearing Renee say that name. But Elizabeth trembled in fear, stammering as she asked Renee, "Renee, why are you joking with such a serious face? Is it because you're a dwarf?" Renee's face was filled with determination. "I'm not joking. I will confess my love to him." Elizabeth imagined Devourer's appearance and sighed helplessly. "What's there to like about him? I don't find him attractive at all." But Renee was utterly infatuated with Lord Devourer. "But I like so many things about him. He's strong." Elizabeth could only helplessly agree. "Strong, yes. I think he's the strongest person in the world." But remembering Devourer's personality, she couldn't help but badmouth him. But his laziness ruins everything. The flaws that no one could accept, Renee listed them as if they were charms, admiring his abilities with affection. "Yes, he's huge and gigantic. He eats like a glutton. He sleeps all day and does nothing. He even snores. He's tactless, and recently he's gotten fatter." Elizabeth couldn't bear to look at Renee's infatuated expression and sighed. "Oh my," she asked helplessly. "No matter what, you still like him, right?" Renee firmly replied. "Yes," she affirmed decisively. Her sincere attitude was impossible to ignore. "I really like him." Elizabeth, hearing the girl's firm declaration, didn't question further and encouraged her. "All right, I understand. I hope everything goes smoothly, but honestly, you deserve better, Renee," she added. "If he rejects you, just come here." As she spoke, she winked mischievously. Renee, seeing someone support and encourage her happily, thanked her. "Thank you, Lady Batory," Renee whispered to herself. "I promise, Renee, I will succeed." Then she hugged the heartstone tightly to her chest. The scene shifted to the wealthy royal capital Riatse. Inside the meeting room of the Dungeon Conquest Alliance, a blonde man was reporting. "We believe the Dungeon Conquest team of the hero Burnistan has been annihilated." The blonde man fell silent after delivering this news. Suddenly, someone slammed the table and stood up. "What nonsense is this?" The one who slammed the table was a thin man. He angrily questioned, "Didn't you say they could easily defeat the Guardians?" Others immediately joined in the questioning. "Their bodies haven't been found yet, so how can you be sure?" One person after another spoke up. Sir Byrne would never lose to those monsters. The arguments continued endlessly, with everyone insisting they were right, and no one willing to back down. The atmosphere in this meeting room gradually became chaotic. "No, you're all wrong. The ancient core dungeon isn't vast or complicated. They could kill or be killed in a single day." No one noticed the man sitting in the leader's seat, who remained silent, seemingly deep in thought. He recalled, "It's been 2 days since we last heard from him. He didn't dare think of the worst-case scenario. Burnistan is almost..." The word dead was deeply etched in his mind. He gritted his teeth, looking at the people before him. "That's what they think." Only then did he raise his head and ask the blonde man who had delivered the news, "What about his sword, the 14th of the 36 virtuous masterpieces?" The man hesitated before replying. The magic communication was cut off when they reached the center of the ancient core, so unless they can return there, retrieving the 14th masterpiece Tanabella is impossible. The man in the leader's seat wasn't surprised, but still felt a sense of loss. "I understand." The others, hearing this, began to stir again. "Then we should quickly..." A blue-haired man stood up and voiced his thoughts. "You can't enter the dungeon. Even Sir Byrne's team couldn't conquer it. It's best to just let it go so we don't lose more people." As soon as he finished speaking, someone immediately refuted him. "No, we can't give up like this. If Sir Byrne really fought the boss, he must have bravely injured it." "Yes, he's the hero. Byrne, isn't he?" The others continued to discuss. "Surely it's licking its wounds now, and the dungeon must be reorganized as we said. Shouldn't we gather as before and conquer it?" The leader, hearing the others' discussions, couldn't help but feel tense, breaking into a cold sweat. He pondered. We've lost one of the royal family's most valuable heroes and a virtuous masterpiece. If the second team fails, the leaders will definitely be dismissed. The worst possible outcomes kept appearing in his mind. And if we just sit here, the royal family will be furious and turn their swords on us. Then he suddenly remembered something, but he posed a hypothesis. What if Byrne hasn't injured the dungeon's monster yet? What if the conquest team hasn't done any damage to the dungeon? He couldn't help but think of the outcome if that hypothesis were true. Then no matter how many times we challenge it before he could finish his thought, he slammed the table and stood up. Conquering the ancient core is impossible. The people in the room who had been arguing suddenly fell silent. Suddenly the sound of light footsteps approached, accompanied by a voice. Curious. Why do you think that? Everyone was drawn to this voice. When they all turned to look, he spoke again. Personally, I think conquering that dungeon is very easy. Suddenly someone exclaimed in surprise. Why is the Royal Magic Research Association here? The speaker was the purple-haired man, one of the three eyes of the Royal Magic Rescue Association. He continued, Don't you know who we're acting on behalf of? This statement, along with their identities, successfully made everyone in the meeting room anxious and terrified. Damn it, the royal family is starting to intervene. The purple-haired man walked around the room. As he passed each person, he placed his hand on their chair, making everyone even more nervous. He spoke with a threatening tone. Our presence here means it's time for you to pay for your crimes. At this point, he could no longer maintain his earlier mocking smile and angrily raised his voice. Your stupidity is unmatched. To have a respected hero sacrifice himself isn't enough. You've also lost one of His Majesty's precious virtuous masterpieces to the enemy. It's unbelievable. The purple-haired man's words seemed to hit a nerve. Everyone was terrified, breaking into a cold sweat. No one dared to speak up, only bowing their heads and taking the blame. Then he walked up to one person and continued, But if we kill everyone here, who will cooperate with the countless other conquest teams of the Empire, right? The purple-haired man leaned close to the man in front of him and said, So His Majesty has proposed a solution to let you live. He stood up straight and announced, You will conquer the ancient core once more. One person stammered, But if Sir Byrne couldn't do it, how can we? Suddenly a wild laugh echoed. Then the purple-haired man suddenly mentioned a name. Nifrim, he repeated. We'll use Nifrim. This name caused a stir among everyone. What Nifrim? Did he just say Nifrim? The leader seemed to remember something and turned to ask him. Wait, Nifrim, if I recall correctly, that's a solution with many issues, right? The purple-haired man immediately corrected him. Nifrim isn't a flawed product. It's incredibly successful. After speaking, he slammed the table. Now here's the question for you. He leaned close to the leader's face. Why couldn't Burnistan and his team survive? Was it because they were weak, or because they were careless? Without waiting for an answer, he turned and slowly said, Of course not. Then why? He asked himself, and then answered. There's one thing that Sir Byrne and his team lacked, he emphasized. Just one thing. Everyone fell silent, waiting for him to speak. And that thing is, the purple-haired man paused for a moment before saying, Nifrim is it. Let's see how successful this conquest will be. On Swallow Devourer's side, he was yawning tiredly. The surrounding space was dark. Only the sound of his sneezes echoed. Devourer muttered to himself, I have a bad feeling. It feels like a big storm is coming. Then he sneezed again so loudly it almost knocked him back to his original form. Am I catching a cold? Swallow Devourer lay sprawled on the ground and complained. I really don't want to do this, but those humans could come here at any moment. If I delay my patrol any longer, Padrick will scold me. At this point, he imagined Padrick in his mind. Even though he's just a skeleton soldier, he still scares the hell out of me. Devourer fidgeted, muttering to himself. He's just a skeleton soldier yet. He stood up, but perhaps because he had been lying down for too long, he felt a bit dizzy. I can't even refuse being bothered anymore. Finally, he had to get up to patrol as planned. Though exhausted, he tried to remember a place to go. I've heard humans have been using the sewer path lately. Maybe I'll check there. At a place called the Ancient Guardian Core, 16 tentacles, Devourer calmly walked inside the giant tentacles, squirming all along the way. Devourer saw something tightly wrapped by the tentacles, unable to escape, but he could only leave it be. What a pity. But I can't help it now. We can only wait, he muttered to himself, and then continued inward. When he reached room 5, he saw the manager of room 5, named Anthropopago. Devourer thought to himself, if I remember correctly. As he walked on the tree trunk, he recalled. The Anthropopago species can regenerate as long as their core remains intact and they have enough nutrients to survive. Devourer observed this creature for a while. Then he bent down and said to it, "Good news, the core is still alive and well. They'll recover on their own without my intervention." As soon as he finished speaking, it slowly closed its eyes. Devourer pondered. If that's the case then. He leapt forward with a long stride. As soon as he landed, he continued to reason. The problem lies in... Devourer paused for a moment. He looked outside the room and thought. From room 1 to 4, where they were massacred. He scratched his head tiredly. It seems this is an issue I need to report to Patrick. Then he thought to himself. But why do I feel like I'm about to get scolded again? Devourer always looked extremely tired, sluggish and unfocused. He opened his mouth and let out a loud yawn. He gloomily thought, I'll think about the rest later. Guess it's time to rest now, right? He recalled the places he had patrolled to see if he had done enough to feel at ease about returning to rest. I just checked the sewer entrance to room 5, but the results so far are quite satisfactory. Thinking this, he happily turned to leave. Patrick will understand, right? He didn't notice something glowing behind him rushing toward him. Devourer was still excited about finally getting to rest. The patrol is done, he thought. But suddenly something from behind rushed past his ear, making him freeze. A sword flew past and stabbed into the rock wall in front of Devourer. Suddenly being blocked, his mood instantly turned gloomy. A thick aura of killing intent emanated from him. His face darkened, and his sharp gaze became terrifying. The sword wielder slowly stepped inside, continuously threatening. You filthy human scum! Devourer acted as if he hadn't heard anything, and stood there yawning. Now you've set foot here. She had fully entered the room holding a weapon, as if ready to fight Devourer to the death. I'll make sure you don't return alive. Only then did Devourer look toward the door to see who was entering. He thought danger was approaching, but it turned out to be Renee. The girl suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, it's you, my lord!" She apologized while panting and running toward Devourer. I'm sorry, I thought you were some cunning human. She stopped in front of Devourer and showed a guilty expression. I'm really sorry. Devourer was also surprised. It's you, Renee. He looked at Renee, unfamiliar with her current appearance, and broke into a cold sweat. Well, it's fine. I was just a bit surprised. Other than that, he looked at Renee again and hesitantly asked, Renee, are you dressed up? Renee, seeing that he noticed, was overjoyed. You noticed? I'm so happy, my lord. Then she asked him how he felt seeing her like this. How do I look now, my lord? Devourer stammered, looking as if she was dressed for a special occasion. But he was panicking internally. She's taken off her maid outfit. Don't tell me she's planning to quit before Patrick does. Renee, unaware of Devourer's thoughts, shyly fiddled with her hair and answered his question. A special occasion. Yes, it is. Devourer, hearing this, panicked even more. He was so nervous that he started sweating profusely. Then he heard Renee say, Lord Devourer, could you spare me a moment? Devourer immediately agreed. Okay, he thought to himself. Anything but a resignation letter. Renee now led Devourer to another place. It was a part of the cave where light filtered down from above, creating a cozy atmosphere instead of a cold one. In the center was a luxurious table. She excitedly introduced the place. Welcome, my lord. This is Renee's secret spot. She then invited Devourer to sit. Please sit, my lord. I'll bring out the tea. Devourer could only silently repeat in his mind. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Renee brought out the tea and calmly poured it into a cup for Devourer. After pouring, she handed it to Devourer to enjoy while she stood to the side, still holding the tea tray. She watched Devourer sip the tea and softly spoke. This place used to be known only to me, but now it's a secret between the two of us, my lord. Devourer, clueless about her intentions, calmly drank the tea and casually agreed. Yeah, sure. Renee wanted to continue but blushed and hesitated, unsure how to start. Devourer, hearing the word, and froze with the teacup in his hand. He took it as a bad sign and started overthinking again. "Don't quit! Don't quit!" Renee spoke up again. "Lord Devourer, it's been 80 years since you took me in, right? Do you remember?" Devourer, sitting beside her, was so nervous his face turned pale. He set the teacup down. Yes, of course. He recalled the time he took Renee in. 80 years ago. Thousands of years ago, thousands of dungeons were destroyed due to the dungeon conquest fever. At that time, chaos was everywhere, and thousands of humans entered the ancient core. It was in that situation that Renee earned her title and began climbing the ranks. Devourer, seeing that she didn't seem to be quitting, relaxed a bit. "She's not quitting, that's a relief," he asked Renee. "Right? You've been through a lot. Has your right eye gotten better?" Renee, being asked tightly, gripped her skirt, trying to suppress her joy. You still remember Renee's eyes. Renee is very happy. Devourer could only reply, "Of course I've always remembered." Renee continued to voice her feelings. "I've been so happy to be able to protect Lord Devourer all this time." As for me, Devourer couldn't process her words fast enough. What? Suddenly he thought of something. Wait, hold on. What do you mean by used to be happy? He started to worry after hearing her words. Isn't that what people say when they're saying goodbye? Renee gently called out, "My lord?" Devourer could only silently pray. "Don't quit, no, 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 don't." But Renee said something that stunned him. "I like you, Lord Devourer." Hearing this, he froze, not understanding what was happening. Renee repeated her earlier words. "I like you," she said sincerely. For the past 80 years, Renee has been waiting for this moment. Devourer, seeing her like this, didn't know what to do. Renee. Well, He looked at the girl who had just confessed to him and could only helplessly scratch his head. Finally, he managed to say a few polite words. "Thank you for telling me you like me." Only then did Devourer start speaking seriously to Renee. "But we're always teetering on the edge of life and death." He looked straight at Renee for a long moment. "We don't know when we'll get injured or die." Such sincere, realistic words unexpectedly came from Devourer's mouth. Neither of us wants the other to live alone, right? Renee, hearing Devourer say this, fell silent for a moment before speaking in a more subdued tone. "I knew this answer would come. I know I've pushed you too much." But then she continued, "But these feelings are too deep for me to keep locked in my heart." Renee was still pouring out her heart for Devourer to hear and understand, but she thought that Lord Swallow would reject her and turn his back on her. She paused for a moment. How terrifying. Then she looked up at Devourer, holding the Heartstone in her hand. It seemed things had gone off track from the start. Renee suddenly became stubborn. "Renee wants to be loved by my lord, at any cost, at any cost." As she spoke, she tightly gripped the stone in her hand. By now, Renee had lost her composure. She suddenly kicked the table in front of Devourer aside, startling him. Renee, while kicking the table, spoke with a determined voice. "So what I mean is," she shouted directly at Devourer, "Renee won't bow her head anymore." Devourer, seeing her like this, panicked. Renee calmed down a bit. Then she suddenly respectfully held out the heart-shaped gem in her hand to Devourer. She softly said, "With this my wish will be fulfilled, my lord." Devourer, seeing the gem, immediately changed his expression. "Wait, that's..." Renee tried to persuade him. "Just put your mana into it." Before she could finish, the atmosphere around them turned dark and gloomy, completely different from the warm atmosphere earlier. Strange, eerie sounds echoed in the space, sending chills down their spines. "Renee, did you just..." These sounds made Renee's face turn pale with fear. Devourer, now in his true form, spoke in an angry voice. "Did you just try to kill me?" His words terrified Renee, making her scream in fear. The gem in her hand was accidentally dropped. The gem fell to the ground with a loud thud, shattering into countless pieces. Renee looked at the gem she had worked so hard to obtain and cherished as a treasure, only to see it shattered. She was so heartbroken she couldn't speak. Shattered like this, she was so heartbroken. She froze. She couldn't utter a word, only her eyes welled up with tears. Her gaze was filled with pain. She stared at the shattered gem and could only sob. What is this? Then something unusual happened. From within the shattered pieces of the gem, a dark, terrifying shadow emerged. It continuously emitted strange, eerie sounds. Patrick laughed loudly, showing his perfectly straight white teeth flattering. Wow, boss, no matter how you look at it, you're the best. He stood on top of Swallow Devourer and said, You're still not satisfied with driving humans away. Where's your conscience? He looked around. Is it here? No. Is it there? I don't see it. And now you're driving Renee away too. Meanwhile, Swallow Devourer covered his ears, pretending not to hear anything. Patrick's teeth chattered eerily as he said, I'm so shocked by your attack that my jaw won't even close. You didn't show Renee any mercy. Then Swallow Devourer weakly muttered, This much is still fine. Immediately, Patrick threatened him. What did you just say? Swallow Devourer corrected himself. Nothing. He held his face and said, Patrick, what should I do? Patrick sat down beside him and said, Why are you asking me when you're the one who caused the trouble? Swallow Devourer sighed in frustration. He held the shattered piece of the glowing pink gem in his hand. Patrick muttered, Actually, he crushed the gem and added, It's not entirely your fault. Patrick turned sharply to look at him. Of course you know that what you did to me is your fault, right? Swallow Devourer broke into a guilty sweat. Patrick lifted his ear and said, Why aren't you listening? He panicked, his eyes darting around as he stammered in denial. I don't remember anything, Patrick calmly said. Oh, really? Should I help you remember? Patrick slowly recounted. At that time, you charged in furiously. Swallow Devourer went berserk. The golden eyes glowed in the darkness, enveloping both Swallow Devourer and Renee. Patrick rushed over in a panic, trying to stop him. He grabbed his head and shouted, Boss, calm down! At that moment, he had fallen into a state of confusion. Patrick tried to wake him up. Boss. The sound of the girl exhaling a sorrowful breath echoed. Renee Padricki turned to check on her condition. Renee collapsed to her knees, the glowing pink gem in front of her. Tears streamed down her face as she trembled and said, What have I done? Patrick tried to calm her down. Renee, calm down. Leave this to me and get out of here. He was stuck in front of Swallow Devourer. Damn it, I can't reach her in this state. In this dire situation, Patrick racked his brain. If that's the case, there's only one way. He reached for the sword on his back. Patrick swung the sword and struck Renee. The depressed girl took the blow. Renee coughed up blood. Patrick thought to himself, I'm sorry, Renee. I couldn't think of any other way. Now he could safely turn back to face his boss. I've pulled her away. Swallow Devourer had now transformed into a dangerous beast. In the pitch-black darkness, only his glowing eyes and the lightning crackling around him were visible. Patrick froze. What should I do now? Swallow Devourer gloomily spoke. You! Swallow Devourer stared at him and hissed. Are you trying to kill me too? And what happened next? Everyone knows. Patrick smugly recounted. Swallow Devourer could only pretend to be deaf and blind. He turned to look at him and smirked. You don't remember anything, do you? Swallow? Devourer held his head in confusion. I'm sorry. Patrick patted him cheerfully. It's good that you came to your senses so quickly. He comforted him. I understand why you acted that way. Looking at the glittering pile of shattered stones on the ground, he continued. It had to become beep, beep, beep after all that. After calming down, Swallow Devourer sniffled. I guess I have to find her, right? Patrick glanced at him. Why are you asking me such an obvious question? Swallow Devourer shook his head. Somehow I feel like Patrick is the one who should do it. Patrick was surprised. Why would you say that? You know how important she is to the dungeon. Patrick listed out a ton of things Renee had to do, from preparing food for the boss, to managing the diets of other monsters, cleaning and repairing the dungeon, replenishing monsters, resetting traps, handling complaints from each room, and resolving them, selling supplies, redistributing the budget. He slumped. and most of the other management tasks, Renee handled them all. Honestly, losing her would make the dungeon's condition worse than being destroyed. Swallow Devourer was stunned. Wow, I knew. But hearing all this is still shocking, Padrick said. Let's go find her before it's too late, he rambled on. Even if you have to beg on your knees. Swallow Devourer shrank back as Padrick nagged. Or kiss her shoes. Just bring her back here, Swallow Devourer weakly said. All right, fine. Padrick handed him a bracelet. Oh, and if you're going to find her, take this, he added. This is Demira, a bracelet that can help stabilize mana. Swallow Devourer looked at it, the green aura emanating from it. He picked it up. Padrick instructed him. You don't need to know the details. Just know it's very expensive. Swallow Devourer looked at the bracelet in disbelief. This thing, Padrick continued. Your mana flow is too strong, so I'm not sure if it'll work on you. Though not much, it'll at least help your body recover from the state it was in earlier. Swallow Devourer, half listening, raised his hand and realized he had 6 fingers. He looked at Padrick in confusion. You're prepared to this extent. It's like you knew this would happen from the start. Gross, where did you get this? Padrick firmly said. I picked it up off the floor. He held up the bracelet and smiled blankly. Padrick broke into a sweat. Please, I'm begging you don't do anything weird with it. It's very fragile. Swallow Devourer put the bracelet on his wrist and muttered aimlessly. Who knows? Padrick sensed trouble and said, Please just go. Then he turned away, waving his hand. All right, I'll try to take care of this place while you're gone. Padrick frowned at him. You're not planning to walk, are you? He reminded him. You have 5 days to return. The humans will be back soon, Swallow Devourer said. So you want me to return before the conquest team arrives, huh? Padrick replied. Yes, boss. His spirits sank as he thought about that chair. If I can't stop the intruders while the boss is away, I don't know what will happen if the humans reach that place. He held up his skeletal 5 fingers. 5 days. I can guarantee its safety for at least 5 days. Please remember that. Swallow Devourer sighed. All right. A black aura rose up, enveloping him. The black aura formed a black cloak around him. He added, I'll return with Renee within 5 days, Padrick continued to remind him. Also, if you happen to appear near a human village, try not to draw attention, boss. It's not good if a dungeon monster is discovered in a human village. Swallow Devourer stomped his foot casually. All right. He grinned savagely. If things go too far, I'll destroy everything and return. Padrick, hearing this, angrily shouted. Come on, stop trying to act cool. After Swallow Devourer left, Padrick sighed in contemplation. He took out a piece of paper from his coat. Things are more complicated than I thought. Looking at the crumpled paper, Padrick lamented. Renee sold her nails and bought a demonic gem somewhere, and this caused the boss to lose control, nearly killing her. He narrowed his eyes and muttered. I can see what's going to happen. Padrick imagined a scenario. If the boss finds out about this Swallow Devourer, we'll definitely chew the heads off those damn humans. Padrick panicked. The apocalypse. He calmed down, took a deep breath, and opened the next page of the newspaper. It's not too early for humanity to be destroyed. Suddenly, Padrick froze for 5 seconds. His eyes widened in shock. What? The newspaper read, The Dungeon Conquest Alliance is confident they will reach the core of the ruins within 3 days. Padrick desperately recalled what he had just confidently said. Padrick was shocked to the core, his eyes wide. 3 days. In moments like this, one needs to put on a confident smile. He resigned himself to his miserable fate. The bright sunlight shone again, and dust scattered in the air. Swallow Devourer lay on the ground, staring blankly at the sky. Swallow Devourer squinted his eyes. It's been a while since I've seen sunlight, so it's a bit blinding. He groaned. Damn it. He clicked his tongue. This is the 2nd time I've teleported to a random place. Then he remembered Padrick's nagging before leaving the dungeon. The mana in your body is chaotic, so don't use magic. He pondered for a moment. Then Swallow Devourer raised his hand, and the darkness gradually dissipated. Is it because of magic? He let his hand drop and lay there. Whatever, let's try one more time. Swallow Devourer cast magic again. The darkness rose around him. He thought to himself, the place where Renee sold the mana stones is— A name popped into his head. Hastin Town. Then he disappeared, without a trace. A cold, arrogant voice echoed in the darkness. You're just lowly humans, yet you've managed to come this far. I must grant a special favor to such tiny creatures. A horned and winged woman sat arrogantly on her throne. How about a glorious death? She raised her head and looked down disdainfully at the humans who dared to set foot here. The other man sneered. How funny, even demons are arrogant. He drew his sword and said arrogantly, We are the experienced conquest team ranked 32nd in the entire kingdom. He pointed his sword at the demoness and declared, The elite mercenaries of the Tiger God Legion, he continued. Remember this name. Soon we'll be famous across the continent. You don't deserve to sit on that throne. We're here to depose you. The demoness was indifferent to their self-praise. You insolent fools! She pushed her chair back and stood up. I am the 17th descendant of the demon king Asmodeus. Her wings burst into flames, emitting a mesmerizing purple fire. She smiled and introduced herself. Melia de Lymph. Agrea. Her strange, large eyes looked at the humans. The arrogant demoness said, You're honored to know my name. Now die. The man in the cowboy hat smirked, though his eyes still showed fear. I'll keep those words. He took a step and vanished on the spot. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the demoness. He shouted, Then return it to you, Demon King. The demon calmly summoned a staff, spinning it once to block all the arrows fired at her. The sniper reloaded his arrow, muttering. She blocked the way. The mage shouted, Let me support the captain. He fired several fireballs. The demoness swung her staff. You weak humans don't know your place. In a blink, she created flames that engulfed the entire room. Her target was the mage and the sniper behind the commander. They couldn't defend themselves and were instantly burned to ashes. Seeing the flames rushing toward him, the commander clicked his tongue. He assessed the situation around him and then stabbed his sword into the floor. He managed to flip the floor up just before the flames reached him. Suddenly, blue fragments of light floated in the air. The commander was startled, ice shards. He panicked and looked up. In front of him was a blinding blue light. He was stunned. How is this possible? The demoness raised her staff, creating a large block of ice spikes. Had she already cast a new spell? In just a few short seconds, looking at the debris still floating in the air, the commander grabbed a piece and focused his energy into his arm. You think— He charged straight toward her. Do you think I'll let you off so easily? He also shifted his weight onto the balls of his feet. He leaped toward the demoness again. Seeing this, she disdainfully raised her hand, controlling the ice spikes to shoot toward him. Are you digging your own grave? Foolish. But her ice spikes couldn't touch him, shattering upon hitting a yellow barrier that had appeared out of nowhere. She was completely shocked. I clearly dealt with the mage already. She turned sharply to look at the mage and sniper she had burned earlier. They were still alive. They shouted. Charge, Captain! The demoness, furious, chanted a spell into her palm. You insects! She charged at the same time as the commander. The two were about to collide. Suddenly, the ground exploded into small fragments just as they were about to clash. A massive explosion shook the entire room. The commander could not react in time and was sent flying, crashing to the floor. The demoness was thrown back, hitting a beam. They coughed up blood, utterly shocked. What the hell? Dust and smoke filled the air. Rocks fell chaotically, creating noise. Something new had appeared. The commander's teammates ran over to help him up, worriedly asking, Captain, are you okay? He coughed and staggered to his feet. Yeah, don't worry. The commander frowned, looking at the site of the explosion. Who's that? I wasn't informed of any other conquest team coming here. On the demoness's side, she was also dazed, struggling to stand up. She gritted her teeth, wary. Are they stronger now? If they have the power to breach the Demon King's fortress, this is serious trouble. Looking at the blurry figure hidden behind the smoke. Who is it? A voice rang out. Hey! Swallow Devourer appeared cluelessly asking, Do you know where Haston is? The mercenaries were dumbfounded, unable to understand what he was saying. Agrea was also stunned speechless as she looked at him. Immediately, both sides angrily shouted in unison. "What the hell are you barging in here for?" Devourer's expression remained calm as he casually replied. "Huh." Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind. "Their appearance seems human, but it's best you stay away from that demon king." Hearing this, he was surprised and turned to glance at them with a terrifying look. Demon King. On this side, Lymph Agrea was furious, exuding a murderous aura. With one hand covering her mouth and the other holding a weapon, she said, "Come at me no matter how many of you there are. No matter how many, you won't defeat me." He raised his hand, resting his chin on it, looking at her. In his mind, he imagined the Demon King as a tall, strong man. That demon is the Demon King. It feels completely different from the Demon Kings I've met before. Is this a generational gap? "Melia de Lymph!" Agrea shouted in Swallow Devourer's face. "You bastard, you'll pay dearly for daring to destroy my castle. Let me give you a taste of my wrath." Suddenly, a group of people charged into the castle. The mercenaries reported. "Commander, reinforcements have arrived." Seeing this, the commander immediately ordered, "Good, let's take down that Demon King together." Amid the chaos, Swallow raised his hand as if to say something, but a gust of wind swept past him. Without waiting you, the group eagerly charged forward, attacking. They shouted, ignoring him, "Your magic won't harm us." Rocks flew everywhere, hitting his head, but he just stood there, only muttering. "Hastin." Melja de Lymph, Agrea, seeing the mercenaries' ferocity, said, "Humans sure talk big, huh?" Both sides continued to attack relentlessly. Purple energy bolts flew everywhere. The mercenary commander kept boosting morale and ordered, "We have reinforcements now, so don't be afraid." Charge Devourer, left alone, muttered hopelessly, "Can someone tell me the way?" But all he got in return were shouts of "Charge!" The two sides continued to fiercely battle the surroundings in ruins. The castle seemed to be shaking. She cursed at the humans. "Taste the pain, you lowly scum." The humans refused to fall, retorting, "This place will become your grave." Demon King. All of this annoyed him. He held his head side and sat down. "Ha ha." His expression changed, now angry. He frowned. "I'm pissed now." Suddenly he stood up, looking at the sky, deep in thought. "I need to find Renee quickly." He didn't care turning his back to the mercenaries. Talking to them seems impossible now. Then he leaned on his hand, holding his waist, and head, thinking, "If I'm late, Padrick will chew my head off." Ha ha. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. The humans, unaware, kept shouting, "Hey, come help us!" He must be scared. Without letting them finish, Swallow Devourer turned his head, revealing his eyes, two more glowing like a monster's. Purple energy emanated from him. "Shut up!" At that moment, a huge black shadow covered the group. The black aura enveloped them, terrifying everyone. The large shadow turned out to be a black monster. It attacked the mercenaries, making them run away in panic because the monster was sucking people in. After a while, the shadow shrank, only to reveal Devourer chewing nom nom nom, walking leisurely. Melia de Lymph. Agrea stood there witnessing everything, terrified. Her face turned pale, her eyes wide, and she was drenched in sweat. He let out a burp, making her turn pale with fear. Jumping in shock, she tightly gripped her staff and asked, "What did you just do?" "Melia de Lymph." Agrea slowly walked toward him, her actions confusing. Swallow Devourer. "You're so strong, perhaps even stronger than me." Suddenly her eyes sparkled and she grinned, revealing her fangs. "I'm very interested in you. I want to learn more about you." Immediately she got excited. Curious, circling around Devourer, touching his hands, lifting his clothes, searching for the monster from earlier. He was stunned. "What's your name? What was that huge thing that appeared? Where did you put it? And what's your name? What's the secret to your power?" Devourer's face showed clear discomfort as he looked at the Demon King in front of him. She was startled when she saw his expression. In the castle, a light from outside seeped through the cracks, illuminating the interior. Now calmer, she cleared her throat. "I apologize for my rudeness, Allow me to introduce myself. Melia de Lymph." Agrea spread her arms and stepped forward. I am the great Demon King, the 17th descendant of the Demon King. She struck a cool pose in front of the monster and shouted her name. Melia de Lymph Agrea. The girl glanced at him. Now what's your name? Devourer, seeing her unruly behavior, darkened his expression, frowning and gritting his teeth. I hate this. All of this. Though annoyed, he reluctantly raised his hand and stammered an introduction, thinking to himself, but if it's for that, fine. I'm Swan. He paused, and she immediately exclaimed, Oh ho! Suddenly, Devourer froze. Wait, he remembered Padrick's warning. If I reveal my identity, won't the news spread everywhere? Padrick wouldn't want that. Besides, it's not necessary to reveal my identity yet. He continued halfway through his name. Renee, he reminded himself. I don't need to reveal my identity yet. Devourer smiled nervously as he introduced himself. My name is Devourer Renee. In his mind, an image of a blond man with a dazzling smile appeared. A handsome young man, Vyarer Swaldo, 32, single. For a moment, he suddenly remembered the man's name and mentally praised himself. Damn, that name sounds gross, but it's the only one I could think of. After learning his name, her eyes sparkled with excitement. Can I call you Lord Swaldo? Devourer, sweating, replied. If you want. Agrea continued. All right then, Lord Swaldo. First of all, I'm very grateful that you saved me, though it was a bit unnecessary. He quickly stopped her, one hand on his head, the other waving. That's enough. Melia de Lymph. Agrea frowned, puffing her cheeks in frustration. No, if it weren't for your help, I'm a bit embarrassed to admit, but they might have attacked me. So you saved me, but it's not like I needed you to save me. She put her hands on her hips, smiling confidently. So I also want to help you. Is there anything you need? Devourer, overjoyed as if he had hit the jackpot, urgently asked, Do you know the way to Hastin? She also replied, Aha, Hastin. In his heart, he was thrilled. She knows killing those humans for her was the right thing to do. Just a little longer, Renee. Hearing the name Melia de Lymph Agrea was full of curiosity. What's Hastin? After all his anticipation, her response left him speechless, utterly frustrated. Devourer fell into deep thought. What is Hastin? Wait. Don't tell me she doesn't know the way there. She doesn't know where Hastin is. Devourer's internal scream could probably echo across the desert. No way did I just ask someone who doesn't know what Hastin is. Devourer, helpless and sweating, pressed further. All right then, where is the nearest human village, Melia de Lymph? Agrea, confused, asked back. A human village? She searched her memory and pondered. From what I know, the city called Riatze is nearby. Devourer seemed to have a mental breakdown, holding his face. Riatze, the royal capital. Riatze, he continued. By human horse-drawn carriage, it would take 2 months to get from Hastin to Riatze, wouldn't it? As soon as he finished speaking, he collapsed to the ground, shocking her. What's wrong, Lord Swaldo? Is there a problem? He weakly replied. It's too far. At that moment, she still didn't understand what was going on and simply said, Too far, I see. So you want to go to a distant place. How about using an instant teleportation wheel? Devourer, hearing about the wheel for the first time, turned to her and asked, What wheel? She asked back. You don't know. It's something humans created using magic and alchemy. Currently, this device can teleport humans through space. He became a bit interested and sat up. Where's that thing? She put her hands on her hips and replied, You want to go? The instant teleportation wheel is in Riatze. The scene shifted to the ancient and beautiful city of Riatze. Swallow looked around and said, This is the center of Riatze, right? She, with bright eyes full of excitement, replied, That's right. There's no better place to gather information. Looking around, he felt gloomy again. I'm not sure I'll find Renee here, but I have to look for clues since I don't know if she went to Hastin. Just then, a sweet voice echoed in his ear. You said you're looking for a silver-haired girl, right? He gloomily admitted. Yes. She smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, I'll help you find her. He tilted his head in confusion and asked back. Aren't you the mistress of the Demon Palace? What about your palace? Melia blushed and laughed. Are you worried about me? That's commendable, but don't bother. A terrifying aura immediately emanated from her. I am the Demon King, born in this supreme body to rule. That palace isn't important. Wherever I am, that place becomes the demon realm, and the demons around me are all my soldiers. Swallow showed curiosity and continued. So that's the power of the Demon King. You can summon demons at will. She smiled contentedly and said, Exactly. But she then said something that made him freeze. Though I've never tried it before, Melia, seeing his reaction, exclaimed, My father did it, so surely I can too, he replied. I see. At that moment, Melia's expression suddenly darkened. Oh, and one more thing. Her tone became gloomy. The demon palace that my father passed down to me has been partially destroyed, so I have no choice. He scratched his head and apologized. Sorry about that. Melia, feeling touched, said, It's not a big deal. Humans always cause trouble anyway. Melia shouted in the center of Riase. Even a demon king like me struggles while the human capital is right in front of my palace. Then Melia's attitude did a 180-degree turn, and she cheerfully said, Enough moping, let's go gather information. Swallow stammered in agreement and thought, I have a bad feeling. The two walked side by side. Is trouble about to happen, or am I just overthinking? A loud voice shouted, Here are your 2 beers. Swallow looked at this beer and thought, Maybe I'm just overthinking. Swallow spoke to Melia, but she had already started drinking her beer. Melia, we still have a long way to go. What are we doing here? But she is satisfied because she is drinking beer. Melia spoke while wiping her mouth. It seems you don't understand human villages. A pub is a place to share and gather information. She pointed towards the people happily drinking beer and chatting. Just look around and listen carefully. Every conversation is valuable information that can't be found anywhere else. Melia propped her chin, smiling with eyes narrowed at him, and said, You just need to choose which one you want to hear. Swallow also looked around and wondered what it meant to choose. Swallow saw something and asked, What is that over there? Some people were gathered around a board with many papers. He and she went over, and Melia exclaimed, I didn't expect this to be here. This is the information I mentioned. He teased her by asking if she mentioned it too. Melia quickly replied, Yes. Swallow picked up a paper and read it. She added, This is a list of active expedition teams in the dungeon. I heard it's to prevent multiple teams entering the same dungeon causing chaos. He tacitly admitted that not at the same time would there be 2 groups. Melia continued, If there were more than one team, dividing them would be very troublesome. She frowned and expressed her opinion that humanity is lowly. The more the better for success. Just look at them ready to rush into the fire, blinded by greed. Then Swallow put down the paper and said, Anyway, for us, this is good news. Melia asked why us. She continued questioning, making him sweat nervously. Are you also a demon in the dungeon? Melia opened her eyes wide and stared at him fearfully, questioning, thinking, It's strange, since I am the master of the Demon King's palace. How can you be free outside while being a demon? He hurriedly said, I'm too lazy to explain. It's very complicated. Can we just skip this? She let him off without asking. Further, Swallow, you really have many secrets. Well then, I won't pressure you. Surely you have your reasons? He seemed to notice something interesting. Melia recognized a paper on the board and thought it was her dungeon. Swallow stepped forward and took that paper. Lucky the expedition team list is empty, so there's still time. Melia suddenly shouted, What's that? Don't look at it alone. Show me too. Trying to act superior or what, petty? He placed the paper in front of her and said, All right, here it is. Melia's eyes lit up, excited to see it. She said it's a promotion for the conquest of the 7 ancient core hells. Swallow asked if she also knew about the ancient core. Melia replied, Of course. It's the 7 great dungeons, each with terrifying powers that make humans foolish, yet admire that strength. He wondered, Wait, can she take the dungeon flyer away? Melia sat down and admired the flyer, saying, This is the dream of all demons. Among the 7 great ancient core dungeons, it is the strongest. The ruler is the master of creation, guardian of gods, punisher of those blinded by greed, the supreme being of all demons in this realm. She clasped her hands, eyes shining brightly, and said, "Lord Devourer." He looked helplessly at her. Swallow lowered his head, holding a beer glass, thinking it sounds more like a landlord always troubled by demons, doesn't it? Melia's face darkened as she looked at the flyer and confided, "You know my favorite dungeon is the Ancient Core." Her gaze deepened. "I want to become stronger." The two sat facing each other. The atmosphere quieted a bit. "If I become stronger, maybe I can meet Lord Devourer." Devourer stiffened. Thinking she was talking to him, she continued, "Sounds amazing, unparalleled power. I want to have it too." Melia's face darkened again as she looked at her beer and said, "Of course, my father is strong too. He is a true demon king, worthy of that title. Unlike me, just a human. There's someone stronger than him. A young hero named Burn something." He asked Melje more about that person, but Swallow was the one who had devoured him while yawning. He is the hero who defeated the Demon King, right? She really didn't want to get close to him. She added, "I don't want to spend my life managing a dungeon like my father." Melia spread her arms and said, "I just want the Demon Realms people to be able to build their own dungeons." She smiled happily and said to him, "That's why I have to be stronger." Isn't that great? Swallow hummed and smiled faintly at her. Thinking youth is truly wonderful. Inside him, regret flooded again like waves crashing into memories. Swallow. I was once like that, long ago, so long I can't even remember. There was a time I was full of energy, leading a mighty army to dominate the continent. I tried to understand all the knowledge in this world. I was more serious than anyone else. The flickering flame in the night warmed my heart in small bursts. I helped the unfortunate, they moved me. Many times I gave them everything. Then Swallow's eyes shifted fiercely. But finally I realized everything was pointless. Now my goal is to sleep all day. Swallow was determined like that, but she had already passed out from drinking too much beer. He was still surprised and asked her, "Are you sleeping? Really? Sleeping?" The pub continued with conversations. "Oh, there's an expedition mission. Yeah, it just came up yesterday, but I forgot to put it up. Why hang it up only now? Which dungeon is it?" He was carrying her on his shoulder and asked someone in the pub if there was a resting room. The person pointed this way, sir. The flyer was just pinned to the board, along with a voice saying, "Wait a moment, I'll hang it right here. Everyone can check it out themselves." Another person said, "Don't you ever change it? If the inspector finds out, you'll definitely have to pay a fine." Someone replied, "I am changing it, aren't I?" Changing it. A flyer was pinned to the board. It contained information about Rank 7 of the 7 Great Dungeons. Rank 7 Great Ancient Core Dungeons. Limestone Caves underground, located in Grapenia Forest near Haston, in the west of the kingdom. Warning: only those recognized for their abilities may participate in the Supreme Dungeon Expedition, officially S rank or above. Attention: extremely dangerous. Expedition teams currently participating: Fimor Subjugation Team from Fimor 31 members leader, Niprim, expedition duration 72 hours from the announcement date. Morning, gentle sunlight, fresh air. Sunlight streamed through the window with a soft breeze blowing. The Demon Queen was awakened and squirmed. Melia sat up and groaned about her head. Swallow also came over, yawned and asked, "Are you up?" She replied, "Lord Swallow, I don't remember anything." He answered, "Yeah, yesterday I..." Swallow panicked and fell to the ground. Seeing this, she asked why he was so startled. Lord Swaldo. He widened his eyes suspiciously. "Is there something wrong with my eyes?" Swaldo exclaimed doubtfully. "Why do you look like a child?" Hearing that, Melje was surprised and said, "What?" She immediately retorted, "I'm not a child." Though still surprised, he teased Melje, "So you're a teenager?" She blushed deeply and punched him repeatedly, saying, "Don't you think that's rude, Lord Swaldo?" The scene made him laugh. Swallow continued teasing while being punched on the cheek. "Who told you to suddenly be so small? I'm just surprised. Ouch, that hurts." Melia prepared for another punch and said, "I'm not getting younger." He still said, "Ouch, that hurts." "Stop it," she said slowly while still punching him. Melia began to explain that her appearance yesterday was her second version, so humans wouldn't underestimate her. Melia pointed at herself and said firmly, "My current appearance is the first version." After being punched to a pulp, Swallow gradually understood the issue. "So you mean your appearance yesterday wasn't your real one, but this one, right?" She answered immediately, "Yes or no?" "Not really. Melia said again. But why does your face look like that? Did you have a midnight snack without inviting me? Swallow could only smile awkwardly. Melia continued explaining it's just transformation magic. It's magic that allows the user to take on the appearance of the future. He was indifferent. She crossed her arms and laughed loudly, saying, in other words, when I grow up, I'll look like my beautiful second version. Swallow didn't care and answered just to get it over with, okay? Melia pointed straight at his face and exclaimed clear enough, Lord Swallow? He replied, okay. She was dissatisfied with his indifferent attitude and jumped up. You're not answering sincerely at all. Swallow changed the subject. It seems we need to buy new clothes first. Melia angrily said, don't treat me like a child. He replied, okay. She warned him that she wouldn't forgive him. In the domain of Count Hastin, the clatter of horses' hooves, a warrior loudly said, Count Hastin speaking, open the city gates and welcome the expedition immediately. We come from Riaze to conquer the ancient core, a majestic sight of warriors and war horses. From inside a room came a voice. Who sent this paperwork here? Another voice answered. It was just sent yesterday under the name of the Third Eye Association. Fingers clenched tightly on the corner of the paper. You are the Lord of Hastin Domain Count Etark. The other clenched the paper with an angry face, thinking the Third Eye Association is directly managed by the royal family. Etark slammed the paper on the table and continued thinking for dungeons above B rank permission from the domain lord is required to enter, but not to mention permission. He only sent me a notification. This is a royal order, so I can't just throw it away. He angrily said, watch your face. Etark also said to the servant, do you think this expedition team can conquer the ancient core? The servant shook her head. He continued, you think so too? They're too weak to be an expedition team for the ancient core and the team leader. Nifrim. I've never heard of that name before from the Third Eye Association. What are they thinking? He glanced out the window and thought if they half-heartedly mess with the ancient core, wouldn't my domain be in crisis? Better to request a stronger expedition team. Etark began to cover his mouth, thinking to do that he needs a reliable expedition team. The servant spoke up. Your lordship, you might find the answer closer than you think. He grasped the key point closer than he thought. So what about the magic wings? If it's the wings, then it's definitely possible. He fell silent, pondering. I heard they've been expanding a lot lately because they obtained high-quality mana stones of unknown origin. Of course, even with such rapid development, an A-rank mage planning to conquer the ancient core is still crazy. But if the rumors are true... Thinking this, he smiled smugly. The only remaining monster at the right entrance, where there are no guards, is the monster that defeated the expedition army of the hero Burn Swaldo. Etark frowned, pointed, and ordered someone to take a commission to the magic wings. I promise under my name to bring them a large sum of money and great fame, so tell them to conquer the ancient core first. A loud voice shouted along with a rough door opening. You can't just barge in there. Etark and the servant were surprised and asked who it was. 3 people appeared and said, Are you Lord Etark? He suspiciously asked, Who are you? The girl answered Nifrim. Because you didn't open the gate despite our many calls, we took the liberty to enter ourselves. Nifrim boldly sat down while Etark asked, Why did you come here without notice? She replied. Didn't you already receive paperwork from the royal family? The other party widened their eyes and said, Why wouldn't we be allowed to come? Etark hesitated to answer. He thought she looked bloodthirsty and very young. The girl beside her said, We are guests, right? What's with that face? Smile, smile. I want something sweet to eat. Bring us some tea and light snacks and some chocolate too. His hand clenched tightly on the table. Then relaxed, he ordered to prepare quickly for them. The servant nodded in understanding. Etark sat opposite them and began to ask, So why have you come to see me? Nifrim answered, What do you mean? Of course we came to conquer the ancient core. He said the paperwork was only sent here a day ago. You're fast. So when do you plan to leave? She replied, Actually, we planned to leave today, but something urgent came up, so I intend to leave tomorrow. Is that okay? Etark continued. Tomorrow, so soon. Since this is an important mission, wouldn't it be better to go after you've recovered? I'll provide lodging. Feel free to enjoy it. Nifrim interrupted. No, if you don't care about us, that's fine. We'll stop by Magic Wings and leave immediately. Etark immediately questioned. What are you going there for? Do you know anyone there? She replied, no, not for that reason. Nifrim smiled eerily and said, I'm just going there to kill them. Etark asked again. What do you mean? She tucked her hair behind her ear and said, in a place with such lax security, it's easy to eavesdrop using magic. We're out of supplies on the way here, so you intend to assign the punishment to Magic Wings. Etark was shocked to learn this. Nifrim propped her chin and smiled that strange smile again, saying, We also came to this border to subjugate, so do you think we'll just give up? We'll eliminate anyone causing trouble. She continued, this benefits you too, right? Between us and Magic Wings, whichever team is stronger will conquer the ancient core. Etark said, I apologize, I won't request any more teams, so just start the expedition whenever you want. Nifrim took a cookie, saying, Is that so? She bit the cookie and said, Thank you. I'm very glad to be favored by the Count. A dark space with bizarre statues, a skeleton wearing armor and wielding a sword, cut down those statues. The skeleton said, They're coming soon. Swallow Devourer and Melja de Limfef Agrea were scouting on the street. She looked very interested and curious, glancing around. He looked at the scene ahead and thought it looked familiar. The two stood before the city gate, and Agrea said, Lord Swaldo, we've arrived. Devourer stepped forward and asked people around for directions. I want to get to the instant teleport gate. The soldier replied, Oh, you mean the wheel gate? That's still far away. He asked, What far away? The soldier replied, This is the city gate. The wheel axle is at the castle on the right of the royal palace, so you still have a long way to go. You have to pass through 3 more city gates. The soldier explained while drawing the location for him, where you two are now, is outside the city gate. You have to go through 3 side gates to reach the instant teleport gate. Swallow and Devourer asked wearily, How long will it take? Then the soldier said, If you walk, it'll take at least a week. That's what I heard. Huh. Both Devourer and Agrea were shocked and exclaimed a week. The soldier was confused and asked if something was wrong. He was stunned and thought, It's too late. At this rate, forget about finding Renee. Padrick will have left home too. Agrea whispered to Devourer Lord Swaldo, How about using the flying spell? He frowned and said, No, that won't work. Devourer continued, If we use mana, humans will detect it. He pondered, if I release mana, who knows what will happen. The two whispered closely, making the soldier very confused, as he didn't understand anything. From afar, a man approached and asked, Hey, are you two in trouble? He apologized for eavesdropping and asked if they wanted to get to the teleport gate. Agrea replied yes, but asked who he was. He introduced himself, I am Belvier, the flying carriage driver. She wondered about the flying carriage. Belvier smiled and pointed to his flying carriage. Ah, right. He introduced it as a 4th-generation homunculus scrap, the result of an artificial angel production project by the kingdom. Its body is white with a perfectly round head, large eyes one above one below, and wings on its back. Swaldor and Devourer muttered, I see. Agrea got goosebumps and said it looks awful. The homunculus lightly touched Belvier's hand. He patted its head and said it's very strong obedient and can fly, but it was discarded because it couldn't destroy the church as originally intended. She asked if human homunculus experiments had ended. He said no way. This kingdom will never give up such power. There's also a strange story that they are mass-produced on a large scale. Belvier said this while playing with the homunculus. Devourer wondered how since aren't they usually kept in huge jars, Belvier said helplessly. Huh? That's old news. The 1st-generation homunculi from 150 years ago used that technology along with a disdainful look from the homunculus. He thought silently 150 years ago, that's a long time since Renee was born. Then Agrea leaned on the flying carriage about to climb on and said it looks sturdy. I don't think he's lying. If we go by this, how long until we reach the teleport gate? Belvier smiled happily and replied, You have good eyes. He began calculating the flight will take 3 hours plus 1 more hour for customs totaling 4 hours because even flying requires checks. Devourer asked about the price. Belvier smiled broadly and showed 8 fingers, saying, "For you two, it's 8 ounces of gold. For you two, 8 ounces of gold." As soon as he finished, Devourer and Agrea were shocked and horrified, calculating that 8 ounces of gold equals 800 ounces of silver. The inn's lodging was 8 ounces of silver, and this is 100 times more expensive than yesterday's lodging. Agrea quickly turned away and said, "Sorry, I don't have that much money." Devourer helplessly said, "You think I do?" At that moment he reached down and rustled his coat pocket. He pulled out a piece of paper. Then Devourer opened it to look. Inside was a gold ounce and a small note from Padrick. "To the clumsy boss one day, you'll have to be grateful to me, Padrick." Finally, the two got on the flying carriage and flew with Belvier toward the teleport gate. Agrea spoke up Lord Swaldo. He asked, "What is it?" She admired the scenery below and asked, "Who gave you so much money?" Devourer yawned and replied, "Oh, that subordinates in the secret dungeon slipped it into my pocket." Agrea was idle wondering and answering her self-acquaintances. "Yeah, you're a monster in the dungeon? But why are you wandering around?" He glanced at her and said, "How about saying I got kicked out of there?" Agrea asked further, "So your subordinates were expelled too?" He answered vaguely, "Kind of like that." Suddenly, Agrea's mood grew a bit downcast. She was jealous. Even though he left the dungeon, he still cared for his subordinates to the end. "I want a companion like that too. I want to live a life like yours." Agrea's expression when talking about happiness was very gentle. She also really wanted a happy home of her own. Agrea's expression when talking about happiness was very gentle. She also really wanted a happy home of her own. Later, Devourer spoke, "So on Prosperity Road, surveyors, there are houses that look very similar. White walls with yellow tiles. White walls with yellow tiles at the instant teleport gate." Devourer's voice rang out. "So you mean we can't use the teleport gate?" The guard replied, "Yes, sorry for the inconvenience." Agrea sadly said, "I didn't expect this to happen." "I'm very sorry, Lord Swaldo." Then the guard explained the solution. "If it's not urgent, please come back at 8 p.m. tonight. The teleport gate is temporarily closed today to ensure security for the auction. After the auction ends, VIP guests will use the teleport gate. Then the superiors will grant permission." He handed over a paper and said, "If you're interested, take a look." The guard answered, "That's right, because this time there's a very rare item. Item 34 of the 36 masterpieces, the severed claw, was only found a few days ago. We have to close the gate to prevent abuse of the teleport gate to infiltrate the auction house." On the paper was information about the severed claw item. Seeing Agrea curious, she grabbed his sleeve and pulled it down to look. Meanwhile, he was silently thinking, where have I seen this before? After a while, Devourer recognized it and exclaimed in surprise, "Isn't this exactly the weapon of my subordinate?" The guard overheard and asked, "Excuse me, are you mistaken?" Devourer replied, "Mistaken. No way, it's an exact match. Isn't this the thing that when gripped tightly transforms into a large sword and then goes wham?" He demonstrated some moves for the guard to understand. Who whispered, "I'm not sure, but you're probably mistaken. Because in this world, there is only one severed claw." The guard's words stunned Devourer. He was so shocked, he didn't even blink at the phrase "one and only." This phrase kept repeating in his mind. Devourer, with a disbelieving look, touched his head and thought it must be Renee's weapon. Standing beside him, Agrea saw his reaction and spoke Lord Swaldo. He kept thinking, but why is it in human hands? Could it be that Renee was taken by humans? Deep inside, Devourer's face twisted into a terrifying expression. He thought of Renee, her cold eyes staring ahead. No, even the bosses of the other 6 great dungeons fear Renee. How could humans stand against her? Renee is very strong. It's no coincidence she's called the sword-wielding maid. He looked at his hand and thought the sword did Renee take it when she left. Devourer recalled the image of Renee leaving. Her outfit had no place to hide weapons, and she even threw the sword at him, thinking he was an enemy. So how many weapons does Renee have? When fighting humans, would she use fewer than 5 types of weapons? Without the sword, Padrick could still handle it. But with the sword, he'd be even stronger. But Renee is different. If the sword-wielding maid loses her sword, what would she have left? Devourer was lost in his thoughts, his mood very bad. In reality, Agrea's face showed worry and fear as she called out Lord Swaldo. His hand clenched into a fist, veins bulging, his anger erupting. So Renee was killed by humans, by those lowly creatures inferior humans murdered. If Renee was killed by a mere human, his demonic aura surged stronger. The man was terrified and screamed. He kept yelling, Don't come near here, monster!" Strange words continued to echo. Then he said, "It's only natural for me to kill all these bastards here." And shortly after that, Bastard lay twisted on the ground, foaming at the mouth in despair. Swallow Devourer appeared, asking, "Did you see that?" Suddenly, huge golden eyes appeared, and a voice called out, "Lord Swaldo." But he coldly continued, "Do you agree, Renee?" Swallow Devourer seemed to have gone mad. Voices tried to calm him. "Lord Swaldo, calm down. Wake up, Lord Swaldo." At that moment, a slender, weak hand grabbed his sleeve. It was Melia de Lymph Agrea. She grabbed Swallow Devourer's arm, panicked, and asked, "What the hell is going on? Answer me." But he turned his head, stared with a terrifying eye, and said, "I'll only answer you once. The severed claw is one of the 36 masterpieces of virtue." "There is only one in the whole world, right?" Melia de Lymph. Agrea was shocked and looked at him. Then she broke out in a cold sweat and answered, "As far as I know, that's correct. But why do you suddenly ask?" That Swallow Devourer replied, "I've been searching for it a long time. It belongs to a friend of mine. I have to find it." Then he pulled his hand away from her grasp and coldly turned away. "You don't need to help me anymore." "Thank you, Melia de Lymph." Agrea panicked and reached out Lord Swaldo. He continued, "Now I know how to get to Hastine. From now on, I can go there myself." His power began to flare up again, so it's best you get away from here as fast as possible. Melia de Lymph. Agrea panicked and called after him Lord Swaldo. "Is that the friend you mentioned?" Hearing that Swallow Devourer's steps faltered. Melia de Lymph. Agrea hurriedly added, "The demon with the form of a silver-haired woman. A warrior wielding the severed claw from the 36 masterpieces of virtue." Swallow Devourer's face grew colder than ever. Then he hissed each word with that expression the sword-wielding maid, Miss Renee. Seeing his expression, Melia de Lymph. Agrea hugged herself trembling and said, "Judging by that reaction, it seems to be true." Swallow Devourer teased, "That's enough." His eyes glowed dangerously as he asked, "What do you want to know?" Now Melia de Lymph Agrea finally laughed ha-ha and replied, You don't need to tell me the whole story. Even if you use that scary tone, you still can't scare me, especially since I already know who you are." At this point, her face clearly showed sparkling excitement. She continued, "Miss Renee is the guardian protecting the great ancient core. She holds the highest status among the highest. So if you confirm that Miss Renee is your friend, then Lord Swaldo must be..." Swallow Devourer turned back to listen to her speak. Melia de Lymph. Agrea's voice echoed again, the master of the ancient core. Hearing this, he was quite shocked. His face returned to normal, losing the earlier uncontrolled expression. After a moment, he closed his eyes and helplessly replied, "Yes, I am Devourer." But unexpectedly, Melia de Lymph Agrea interrupted him. Her face was extremely excited as she exclaimed, "It must be her Lord Devourer!" Outside, Swallow Devourer sighed helplessly speechless, but inside his face twisted in frustration. But she paid no attention and continued laughing. "Ha ha, look at your face. I caught it with my own hands. Don't worry, my reasoning skills are top-notch." Melia de Lymph. Agrea hesitated a bit and continued speaking. "I don't know what dangerous thoughts you have, so I will help you, and you can't refuse." Swallow Devourer asked skeptically, "For someone who claims to be nearly equal to the Demon King, are you sure you can reason simply like that?" She confidently laughed and replied, "A demon with logic can't become king. The words of a demon who becomes king are the real logic. Seeing her confident Swallow Devourer felt discouraged, thinking this is going too far. Melia de Lymph Agrea saw his pouty face and couldn't help but say, "Ah, that face." Now is the day Swaldo knows. Hearing that he was surprised and looked over. Melia de Lymph. Agrea gestured wildly, describing, "Now you're super scary. Just now some strange things appeared behind you like this." Then she quickly changed her expression to laughing until tears flowed, saying, "I'm so glad you're back to normal. From now on I'll help you, so don't worry." Then Melia de Lymph. Agrea gently grabbed his sleeve and said, "And please don't use that tone when talking anymore. Promise me." Soon it was the day of the auction. The entrance ahead was bathed in beautiful sunlight shining down on the mortal world. Everyone attending the auction wore masks to conceal their identities. At the same time at the back exit, a soldier was leaning against a pillar thinking, "I guessed this before, but I didn't expect no one was really here. So what's the point of guarding?" While feeling bored, suddenly a voice called out, "Hello!" It was Melia de Lymph Agrea, now wearing sharp makeup, a fashionable hairstyle, and flashy clothes, appearing with Swallow Devourer following, still dressed as usual, looking very out of place. She politely asked, "We want to join the auction. Can we enter through this door?" The guard, seeing this, nervously stammered, "Why, yes, this way, but first I need to get your identities. What are your names?" She calmly introduced herself. "I am Melia from the Agrea family, and this is my servant Swaldo." The guard replied, "Please wait a moment." Then he began searching the records for the name Agrea. After a while he awkwardly said, "I'm sorry, but Mrs. Name is not on today's guest list." She covered her mouth and laughed. "Oh, how strange." Then Melia de Lymph Agrea turned and asked Swaldo, "Did you bring an invitation letter?" The guard, hearing this, was confused. "Invitation letter." Then Swallow Devourer stepped forward and said, "Ah, right here it is." The guard looked puzzled and said, "Wait. No invitation was sent out." "Was it?" But before he finished the last word, the guard took a punch to the face. Before the guard was a cold face with a sinister smile, raising a fist, saying, "This is your invitation to the afterlife." After dealing with the guard, he turned to Melia de Lymph Agrea and helplessly asked, "More importantly, can't you wear something else?" But she calmly replied, "Why are you afraid my stunning appearance will captivate you?" But Swallow Devourer cared and said, "You're a child. Don't dress like that." She was dissatisfied and retorted, "Don't call me a child." Yeah, whatever, let's go." But Melia de Lymph Agrea still didn't accept it and angrily tapped his head, scolding, "Take back those words quickly." The scene shifted to Chaite Castle, where a sharply pointed building appeared against the sky, the surrounding space immersed in blood-red hues. Renee couldn't be in a room where someone was lying there mumbling. That was Renee lying despairingly on the bed, tears flowing automatically. Renee suddenly exclaimed, "Back to the ancient core again." 8 years ago, in a forest engulfed by a catastrophic fire, everything was burning. In that destructive blaze, this was the Grappenia forest where everything was gradually disappearing into the air. The scene shifted to another space inside a room where a voice echoed, "I'm sorry for what happened. I didn't think humans would do such things. But won't this forest recover and be filled with joy again immediately? A hand with demonic marks was placed on someone's body. Anyway, I've already avenged them." A terrifying figure appeared with blue hair, 2 horns, 1 cut off, and sharp claws placed on the face of someone frozen in fear. This is the master of the Grappenia forest, nicknamed the Earth Fairy Witch of Grappenia. Swallow Devourer stood nearby, thinking the ancient core used the forest as its natural fortress, so I need to make a good impression on Grappenia. All those who burned the forest are dead, so perhaps Grappenia's anger will gradually subside. At this moment, his feet stood in a pool of flowing blood as he thought, "Even so, what should I do?" It seems unrelated to this matter. The more I look, the more interested I become. It's called a dwarf, right? A non-human creature created by humans. An image of the maid, Renee, locked in a very shabby cell appeared. Swallow Devourer observed and calculated, should I kill this thing too? Leaving a witness isn't good either, but then he made a decision and said, "This is your master's final wish. Now you are free. If you want to go anywhere, go." Renee was shocked and fell silent while Swallow Devourer was dissatisfied with himself for acting erratically. After thinking, he clenched 2 iron bars tightly and said, "However, I won't help you escape this place." At this point, he transformed into a demonic form, gently bending the iron bars and coldly said, "You can choose to die, locked here, or escape. It's up to you, Lello." Renee was stunned upon hearing this. Swallow Devourer turned away and continued, "Your master is looking for a maid named Lello, and since there are no other maids around, it must be you. My kindness out of curiosity ends here." Saying this, his body turned into dark mist and vanished into the air. But Renee still sat there stunned. A non-human creature created by humans, her eyes were vacant, as if unable to accept the truth. After a while, she stood up and murmured the name Lello. Lello is the name of a maid serving the master and a title for the most talented maid. Lello is currently the head maid. Renee stepped out of the space created by the bent iron bars, but this tiny maid had never been called or named that because objects like her had no names. Yet because of that, Renee stood there looking up at the light pouring down from the large hole. The light shone on her beautiful yet pitiful face. Tears unconsciously flowed as she repeated the name Lello. The scene shifted back to Chait Castle, where the atmosphere was less gloomy and the blood-red color had faded considerably. Renee sat on a mound of earth looking toward the castle when suddenly a muffled voice called her name. A cloaked figure appeared behind her. Renee spoke. "I heard the expedition army from the Empire is heading straight to the ancient core." It was Elizabeth Báthory. Renee replied that even if Báthory said that she wouldn't return there. Elizabeth Báthory approached and said, "I'm not asking you to go back. I respect your happiness, Renee, but I prioritize choice and happiness more. Shouldn't you make sure you've dealt with all your problems? If it's those two, I think they're searching for you everywhere. If they find out you were deceived by humans here, what do you think Swallow and Padrick will do? If you plan to live like a ghost, then erase all your traces forever." Those words successfully agitated Renee. Her face looked extremely confused. Then Elizabeth Báthory returned to a normal tone. "You don't have to be perfect. Being clumsy is fine. Padrick will understand your intentions and handle things himself. Because of the expedition team, the ancient core will be busy dealing with them for a few days. If you plan to marry, then just do it." But Renee was still deeply conflicted, not knowing what to say. After a long while, she fiddled with her dress and called Báthory. Then she decisively stood up and said Renee plans to go somewhere far away to breathe some fresh air. Elizabeth Báthory was surprised and asked, "Wait, are you sure your right eye is a bit blurry? Are you okay going alone?" Renee, with a determined expression, replied, "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Báthory." Where is Renee's sword? Back with Swallow Devourer, he was choking someone against the wall, causing cracks. He interrogated, "I'll ask you one last time. Tell me everything about the severed claw." The man, foaming at the mouth from being strangled, struggled to say, "It was sent to me by the Hastin Mana Tower magic wings. I really don't know anything else. Please believe me." "So it's Hastin Swallow Devourer," thought, then coldly asked again. "You said it was the Mana Tower of Hastin Magic Wings, right?" Hearing what he needed, he released his grip, making the man collapse to the ground, and politely said, "Thank you for telling the truth. I'll let you live." After saying that, he turned and left with Melje de Lymph Agrea. But the man was still not afraid of death, and muttered, "Damn it, that bastard almost killed me. I'm just a guard. What did I do wrong? Go to hell, bastard." Suddenly, Swallow Devourer appeared behind him with a gloomy face and said, "That's right. You did nothing wrong." This terrified the man greatly. In his eyes appeared the familiar eyes of Swallow Devourer. He continued in a voice like from hell, "You did nothing wrong, but you just happened to catch my attention. When you set foot in my domain—" "What did you say?" the man kept asking. "Are you a monster?" At this moment he had transformed into a dark mist spreading around. Those terrifying voices continued, "Slaughter or killing. You use pretty words like expedition or conquest. Now all of Swallow Devourer's angry eyes appeared in a terrifying manner. Do you feel guilty for the creatures you killed? Did they do anything wrong to deserve death? At that moment, the man was extremely terrified and looked up. Swallow Devourer answered his own question. No, neither do I. You are my enemy. That's why I do this. The scene shifted to another space inside the auction room where voices echoed. Someone bid 35 billion gold. 4 billion. Billion, 50 billion, 60, 70 billion. The scene was extremely lively as wealthy people raised their hands hoping to win the item. 70 billion. We have 6 billion. Anyone else? At this moment, two people whispered to each other, "This is boring. Should we bid 2? Just for fun?" The other suddenly asked, "What seriously, Wuin? We're here to ensure auction security, not to participate." The blue-haired girl was the commander of the Black Tiger Legion hero, Wuin Historia. Wuin Historia smiled brightly and said, "Ah yeah, seems like I can't joke with you, Garou." The pink-haired girl was the deputy commander of the Black Tiger Legion spy, Garou, who seriously reminded her not to forget their mission. "Anyway, let's finish quickly and go eat something delicious." Suddenly a bald man pointed and asked, "Is there no one there?" But the two girls were still discussing whether to have salmon sandwiches or pumpkin pie. "Oh, I want pudding too." The auction host standing above announced, "I will present the third card and end the auction." Suddenly a chilling voice echoed, "Who said that?" Immediately fresh blood sprayed out accompanied by desperate screams. Swallow Devourer appeared and dealt with the host, then said in a voice from hell, "I will be the one to end this auction, all of you." Wuin. Historia was extremely shocked and called out Garou. Garou was also confused and replied, "Yes." Swallow Devourer appeared in a strange, transformed form, with burning hands stepping forward like a grim reaper, saying, "You're all here to buy the severed claw, right?" A brief explanation about the warriors. There were 3 warriors of the Empire. After one of the trio, Burnistan died in battle with the ancient core. Public criticism arose. The warrior with the duty to protect the Empire's people died. While raiding a dungeon for personal gain, images of the warriors surrounded by countless accusing fingers appeared. The criticism was not only directed at Burn, but also at the other 2 warriors. Among the 2, one felt that as a warrior, maintaining the trust of the Empire's people was necessary, enough to suppress survival instincts and inspire their fighting spirit. At this moment, Wuin Historia's legs trembled violently. She gritted her teeth in anger about to charge, but was stopped by the remaining Garou. Historia. Garou shook his head, signaling she must not go. Though very worried, Garou could only grit his teeth helplessly and said, "You absolutely can't do anything. That thing is beyond dangerous." An image of Swallow Devourer stepping forward like a grim reaper appeared. His yellow eyes with swirling patterns scanned the surroundings. Reaching the auction floor, Swallow Devourer placed his hand on the item and bowed his head, saying, "This mark might just be a hunch, but it really looks genuine." At the same time, he was sensing changes within the item and thought he could strongly feel Renee's trace emanating from it. As expected, Renee was attacked by those lowly humans. Hearing this, he decisively shattered the glass cage. Holding the item and observing it more closely, Swallow Devourer finally spoke, although the situation is quite complicated to explain in detail. "This item actually already has an owner, so I will return it to its rightful owner. How shameful it will be sold for a very high price." His words and demeanor silenced everyone below. Just as he was about to continue, some reckless men pointed and shouted, "Guards, what are you doing? Stop that bastard immediately." At this moment, Swallow Devourer's anger truly ignited. "Fine, it seems you have no intention of sending me off politely." "Fine, I feel the same way." Saying this, Swallow Devourer grabbed the item and hissed as he approached, "I will tear you all to pieces." His face increasingly showed resentment and a vow to bury them with this sword. Suddenly, a figure appeared accompanied by a shout. "Do you think I will allow that?" Swallow Devourer angrily turned to look. It was Wuin Historia who rushed forward to attack Swallow Devourer, fast as a flying squirrel moving with excellent combat gear. But as he watched Wuin Historia attack, he assessed, Unfortunately, you lack the talent for this. In a moment, Devourer lightly dodged to the side and she missed. And you have no other weapon besides those gloves. Swallow Devourer glanced at Wuin Historia's movements and continued assessing while she tried to steady her footing and turned around. Wuin Historia continued to swing her iron fist. In this case, I will tear your arm off and crush those gloves to pieces. Swallow Devourer looked extremely sinister, staring at his opponent. Still, for a human, it was quite impressive. Wuin Historia continued swinging her fist, shouting, "Crush it!" When the iron fist came, Swallow Devourer gently caught it with his bare hand. But when the two strong hands met, Wuin Historia's power surprised him a little. Immediately, he was punched, flying straight into the wall behind, causing a loud explosion and debris to scatter. Wuin Historia was somewhat satisfied, standing there panting heavily. But at this moment, a calm voice echoed, "Haha, so you're not an ordinary human, huh?" The voice came from the rubble, startling Wuin Historia. She couldn't help but feel confused. Is he still alive after that move impossible? That technique destroyed an entire dungeon boss without leaving a trace yet. Wuin Historia's face showed clear fear. Even the Apocalypse clone said to withstand 3 hits was destroyed with a single strike from that skill. Her iron arm now fell to the ground. Wuin Historia began to assess him again. The black liquid is not a gas form, so he's not human, but he's not an ordinary monster either. So what is he? While Wuin Historia was confused, Swallow Devourer smiled wickedly. Then his whole body emitted dark energy as he screamed wildly. What a pity. At this moment, his vision blurred, unable to see anything, as an endless darkness enveloped Wuin Historia. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Wuin, Wuin!" Historia quickly turned her face. "Garou!" she called back. At that moment, another iron hand appeared. From Garot's arm came lightning power. Wuin Historia shouted, "Stop, Garot! Don't come any closer!" But Garou rushed forward, unleashing her power to attack Swallow Devourer, shouting, "Stay away from us!" The scene shifted to another space where Melia de Lymph Agrea sat amid rubble, worriedly asking Lord Swallow, "Are you safe?" I was worried. He reassured her. "Yeah, I'm fine." But she still looked panicked, tears welling up. "Are you really okay? I thought you died from that magic attack." He looked at his hand and wondered why he was still alive. He recalled the moment. That attack wasn't something a human could unleash. It felt like it struck his heart. He wouldn't be surprised if that strike revealed his true form. That thought made Swallow Devourer break out in a cold sweat. And if I'm exposed, Padrick will definitely go mad. I don't even want to think about it anymore. I might die because of it. But more importantly, he looked ahead. I remember those two. Swallow Devourer's gaze looked into the distance. Not just one, but 2 flying squirrels. That distinctive red hair, while I was focused on the blue hair, she evacuated the people here and cast many protective spells on the blue-haired one, then quickly escaped my magical fangs all at once. Recalling that face, he couldn't help but smirk and say, "You people are interesting. Something just fell here." Shouts rang out along with fragments of earth. What the hell is going on? "Hey, someone's here. Are you awake?" At this moment, Wuin Historia was knocked down into a deep dent in the ground, surrounded by people. An old man hurriedly called out, "She's badly injured. Call the guards. No, call the healers." Meanwhile, Wuin Historia thought, "Although I am a warrior, I was defeated by an unknown monster with just 1 strike. Is everyone in the auction house safe? What about Garou?" She was about to stand up when people reminded her to get up slowly. Suddenly, a voice responded softly. "So what, I heard that." Wuin Historia looked up in surprise. Garou tugged her sleeve and smiled at her. Wuin Historia seemed relieved and joyfully exclaimed, "Garou, you're still alive." Garou pinched her cheek and laughed, saying, "Wuin, you should quickly thank me. If I hadn't been there, you'd be dead." Wuin Historia opened her eyes wide, saying, "Huh." Garot's arm was revealed. It was an amputated arm covered in blood. Yet she smiled brightly and optimistically, saying, "Don't worry, it's not life-threatening." But Wuin Historia was not like that. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged Garrote tightly, crying and apologizing. "It's because of me, Garrote. I'm a failed hero. Garrote. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Suddenly a shout rang out, "Wuin Historia!" Garrote wiped Wuin Historia's tears and reassured her. "Calm down. You're a hero. The Empire's hero. Would anyone like it if you cried your eyes out?" Then she whispered into Wuin Historia's ear. "It's just one arm. It's okay. Don't you know who you're facing, Wuin? That monster is the master of the ancient core. He is Swallow." Wuin Historia sank into confusion, unable to believe this truth. "What are you saying? Stop joking. No way such a monster is here." Garrote said seriously, "I don't know why either, but I'm sure. He really is Swallow, the dark, evil disaster, the ancient monster Swallow. The monster's footprints bear the mark of Hero Burnistan, and the traces seem to be less than a month old. This is more serious than I thought, Wuin." Her face showed clear worry. "If this continues, the Empire will collapse." Hearing this, Wuin Historia fell into despair. After regaining her senses, her face was anxious as she said, "If it really is Swallow, we have to stop him. This is human territory, and we have the upper hand." But Garrote placed a hand on her shoulder to comfort her. "Wuin, this isn't something we can solve with our strength. You've already felt that overwhelming power directly. Right now, we can't defeat him. We need to turn to the Demon Subjugation Alliance for help and report back to the royal family. So I'll act alone first. In my current state, I can't teleport both of us, so Wuin, stay here." Saying this, Garrote used the Whisper of Light to heal. The sparkling light began healing Wuin Historia's wounds. Garrote continued, "It won't fully heal you, so don't wander off. Wait for me here." But suddenly Wuin Historia jumped up. "Wait, but we don't know when that monster will go berserk again." Garrote still reminded her, "You should wait here. Please." After saying this, Garrote's body began to glow. Wuin Historia panicked and called out, "Wait, Garrote!" But Garrote decisively vanished into the air. The scene shifted back to Swallow Devourer, who was still thinking. Annoying. Should I let the escaped one go and head to Haston, or chase and eliminate all risks of being discovered here? What should I do? Swallow Devourer turned left and right repeatedly, making Melja de Lymph Agrea beside him confused. Because I'm safe and have retrieved the severed claw, I'll just leave it be. Besides, I have a goal to find Renee, and mustn't forget that. At least I have to find Renee's body. After calculating, he turned back and called Melja to prepare to leave. Her face showed some worry as she replied, "Okay." Swallow Devourer noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" She hesitated. "No, nothing." Swallow Devourer asked again, "What's the matter?" "There's no such thing as nothing happening. Tell me." But she still hesitated. After thinking for a while, she decisively revealed her worry. "You really are strong. I know because I witnessed it at the Demon King's castle. But the more I learn, the stronger you seem. Even though you say you're Miss Renee's friend, you seem even stronger than her. Right? Or is Renee stronger than I thought?" "Please tell me, Lord Swaldo, who are you really?" Swallow Devourer froze momentarily upon hearing the question. Then he helplessly scratched his head. Suddenly, he lightly smacked the girl's head. After the smack, he patted her head, making Melja de Lymph Agrea look up in confusion. Swallow Devourer said, "Why worry, kid? I'm just Lord Swaldo." Melja de Lymph Agrea, small and petite, could only look up. He smiled and continued, "Once everything is settled, I'll tell you the truth, all right?" Hearing this, she smiled with relief. "Now let's finish this. Show them the power of a demon king." She happily replied, "Yes." After a while, the cloak fell off. Melja de Lymph Agrea, who was small before, transformed into a girl with a firm, hot body. Looking over, she said, "All right, Lord Swaldo." At that moment, a purple lightning bolt struck a layer of shield circles. Then a huge explosion occurred, making visibility unclear. Those below, seeing the massive smoke clouds, panicked and exclaimed, "What the hell is that? What exploded?" Wuin Historia looked up in horror toward the auction house. "A damn creature attacking the heart of the capital!" The frightened people shouted, "Our home, Those damn creatures, do they care how many people are in the capital? What should we do? She stood up and started to walk, but then Wuin Historia remembered Garot's advice. Don't wander off, wait for me here. At that moment, Wuin Historia clenched her teeth in anger. Suddenly, a small hand tightly grasped hers. A little girl, worried, clung to Wuin Historia's hand, crying, "Sister, my dad is over there." Wuin Historia's iron hand clenched tighter. While everyone was confused, a voice rang out. "It's okay. Don't worry, everyone. I will handle this." Saying that, Wuin Historia decisively stepped forward, thinking as she walked, "I am the hero, Wuin Historia. I will not run from such a monster." Above, gray smoke continued to rise into the sky. Below on the ground was a wide area of rubble. A foot stomped on the debris. Swallow Devourer also emerged from the pile of bricks and wood, calling out, "Hey Melja, what was that spell you just used? Restructuring a high-level spell that caused the ground to collapse like that, right?" Melja de Limf. Agrea appeared with beautiful wings flying in the air, looking pleased, and replied, "Everything's settled now, right? Everything's basically gone." He asked again, "That spell really shouldn't be used here, right?" She replied, "Don't interfere in my affairs, okay? It's just beginning, but I've already finished them all. Everything's neatly done. What more do you want from me?" Around Melje de Lymph, Agrea sparkling lights shone, making Swallow Devourer feel annoyed. Then she said, "Why complain? If the spell stopped things in this situation, wouldn't that be better?" "Why didn't you tell me?" Swallow Devourer helplessly said. "I thought you could do the right thing in this situation, so I left it be." In the hazy space, a voice sounded, "Ha. This isn't good. Using magic here will bring many troubles." Swallow Devourer glanced back, thinking. Then he asked, "Do you still remember the way to the center?" "To the teleport gate?" Melje de Lymph. Agrea replied, "Yes, I remember the place now." Hearing this, he urged, "Let's go quickly. Heroes and guards will surely come here soon. Things are quite troublesome after using magic. We need to get to Huston quickly." Saying this, he turned and left. She was a bit confused, but didn't ask further. But she couldn't help asking, "You keep saying Hustin, but where is it?" Swallow Devourer stumbled as he walked, looking annoyed. Turning back, he said, "Do you know where the ancient core is?" Hearing this, he laughed. "Ha, of course I know. It's one of the 7 great dungeons I admire." Swallow Devourer said, "That town is nearby." Melje de Lymph. Agrea's cheerful mood faded to gloom as she poked her finger and said, "Actually, I just read about the ancient core in some books." He was very helpless and said, "All right, let's go." Melje de Lymph. Agrea took off flying, saying, "All right, I'll protect it. Don't worry, Lord Swallow." Swallow Devourer waved to her and replied, "I'll be there soon." After parting with Melje de Lymph Agrea, he walked alone through the chaos. As he walked, he said, "We've arrived. How many people are here?" From the smoke appeared a large army facing Swallow Devourer. They saw him and spoke up. "We are one of the 9 pillar families of the Empire, the Blue Crane Subjugation Group." At this moment, a scarred man with a covered face spoke. "I'm the captain of the Subjugation Group." "Who are you?" Swallow Devourer remained silent, thinking, "Yes, humans always have to work in teams. I don't understand why they are so stubborn about such things. But when they gather like this, it's quite troublesome. They seem to be guards protecting the auction, but it's okay. After all, they're just soldiers. No heroes have appeared yet." Thinking this, Swallow Devourer spoke. "You want to know who I am? Let me think if I should tell you." Then his eyes turned yellow and he said coldly, "I am your enemy." Instantly, eyes and mouths appeared clearly and terrifyingly all over his body. At that moment, in the ancient core, a voice echoed Nifrim. "Everyone says whoever enters this dungeon rarely returns. If anyone dies here, their soul will wander unable to be freed." The blue-haired girl Sylvia kept pestering Nifrim. "Should we turn back now? It's too scary here." But Nifrim was a bit angry and said, "Come on, don't cause trouble, Sylvia." Hearing this, Sylvia pouted, feeling a bit wronged. "There's nothing here. It's boring to death, so I did it just for fun." Suddenly, she turned aside and said, "But I see many strange things in this dungeon." Nifrim turned in alarm. "The first room we passed was full of monster corpses, but this room is different. It's too clean. Surely someone has cleaned here already. Her eyes showed caution. Then she asked everyone, "What do you think?" The man was still absent-minded and confused. Then murmurs arose. "No way the Hitler last expedition team cleaned here. The monsters aren't smart enough to do that. Or maybe a highly intelligent monster did it. Wait, isn't this dungeon already destroyed up to the 5th room? Only the boss room remains. No way a monster could clean all this." Suddenly a voice rang out. "What's that? Why clean this room and not the first one?" Nifrim was startled and looked at her, then quickly glanced behind. Then Nifrim shouted, "Monsters, stop fooling around here. Are you trying to trick us?" Panic voices arose. We... Suddenly a dark voice echoed, "You're too noisy, making me tired. My joints hurt even more." "I'm not tricking you. I cleaned this place because it was messy. Also, I guessed someone would come to conquer the dungeon, but you're too noisy, so I'm quite annoyed." Two glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, looking out. Nifrim hurriedly told Sylvia. "Sylvia, light." Sylvia quickly replied, "Okay." Immediately, Sylvia raised her hand and created a beam of light in her palm. The voice rang out again. "Too bright. You fools, why do you have to come here? Haven't you died enough? Welcome to the ancient core." It turned out the voice belonged to Padrick the Knight. Nifrim was shocked and thought to himself. Then he had to ask, "So you are the knight?" "Padrick?" Padrick the Knight, hearing this angrily, said, "You know me, so I don't need to introduce myself anymore. I was going to make a grand introduction, but now forget it. Truly, you fools want to come here and die. Calm down, don't overreact. Lower your weapons and let's talk. That little mage, don't be so defensive. You soldiers step back a bit." "Huh, did I say something wrong?" While Padrick the Knight was speaking, a flash of power streaked by. It was Nifrim's small sword. She angrily stabbed and shouted, "Die! You talk too much!" But Padrick the Knight gently blocked it with one arm. Then he squinted and said, "Humans really behave rudely starting a fight so quickly." Nifrim then used ice magic, creating a large block of ice, and attacked Padrick the Knight. Immediately, a huge explosion erupted, filling the air with dust, making it impossible to see from outside. Sparks flashed in the sky from the clash of their spells. They fought again. This was all too familiar and not enjoyable at all. It's the same no matter who I face. In the end, I always win. Padrick the Knight calmly blocked Nifrim's strikes. But Nifrim's eyes were filled with resentment as she swung her sword down. Padrick the Knight remained calm as ever. Then he released a sword aura from behind and launched it forward. Padrick the Knight thought to himself, "A dull battle." Then he said to his opponent, "Oh, you seem to have some power." Quite different from the others. But at that moment, Nifrim smiled strangely and began unleashing multiple techniques, simultaneously enhancing her power. Omen Radiance, Silent Step, Bloodthirsty Path, Ashen, Courage. Various formations appeared behind her. Padrick the Knight reached for his sword, which was stuck in the ground, and said, "You have many buff spells, which is why you're so strong. But I think those effects won't last long. Probably only about a minute." But he didn't have long to ponder before a series of moves struck, causing paralysis. Thunderous strikes landed, making Padrick the Knight somewhat alarmed. "Oh, these again." Nifrim now leapt onto him and said, "Repeat that." Who will win? Nifrim's whole body emitted a strong aura as she pointed her sword downward. Padrick the Knight tilted his head and said, "Not bad. I didn't think you had enough strength to pressure me like this." Sylvia stood timidly nearby, holding a sword. Whispered voices murmured, "Not over yet. The ancient core's guardian monsters aren't that many." Suddenly, Padrick the Knight said, "Looks like I need to eliminate that blue-haired mage first." Sylvia broke out in a cold sweat tension and fear rising. Nifrim angrily stomped and shouted, "Shut up, Padrick." The Knight seemed quite pained. Nifrim exerted all her strength to stab downward, hissing, "Die." But then a bony hand gently reached out and grabbed the sharp sword tip, followed by a loud laugh, "Ha ha." Padrick the Knight lay on the ground, feeling happier than ever. "Truly, it's been a long time since I've enjoyed acting like this. Sorry it's been a while since I had this much fun. I should have taken you down quickly." Seeing that expression, Nifrim was both confused and resentful, sweat pouring non-stop. Padric the Knight continued. But it's been a long time since a subjugator came here, so I was a bit bored. I wanted to feel defeat and trick you all. Thanks for giving me this joy. After speaking, Padric the Knight's eyes flashed blue, as if wanting to devour everything nearby. The scene shifted to a dark place where nothing was clearly visible. Nifrim suddenly opened her eyes and shouted. She propped herself up, shouting in pain. What just happened? At that moment, a voice echoed, startling Nifrim. As she looked over, "Oh, you're awake!" The Death Knight. Padric still sat there, continuing to speak. "It only took me a few seconds to summarize everything after you passed out. However, you should look for yourself," he said, raising his hand in a direction. There was a pile of bloodied corpses. The Death Knight. Padric continued, "All the people who encountered me. The Death Spirit Knight Padric, none have survived to this day, not a single one. I think you must know these things because you know my name, but it seems all you know is just my name and nothing else." At this moment, his hand was holding Sylvia's head. However, dealing with this blue-haired mage is quite challenging. As he spoke, the Death Knight Padric threw the corpse back to Nifrim. Nifrim panicked and shouted. Sylvia trembled beside her best friend's body. Padric continued, using holy magic alone. Just thinking about it makes my bones itch. Then he couldn't hide his amusement, a smile blossoming around him. "After all, you are Nifrim, right? That mage kept calling your name until the very end." The image of Sylvia gasping for breath appeared. She kept calling out, "Nifrim, Nifrim, Nifrim, the Death Knight." Padric continued, "She called you so desperately." Nifrim fell into silence in despair, but Padric still kept taunting. I was hoping for a more emotional reaction. "But you're quite boring, Miss Nifrim. You're really heartless." "Now it's time for the Q&A for the survivors," he said, drawing the sword embedded in his body. Even Phimo is an idiot. He couldn't send only 30 people. Honestly, I'm sorry to say this, but this invading force is too mediocre. Tell me I know you're hiding something. At this point, the sharp sword was pressed against Nifrim's neck. The Death Knight Padric continued. "Since I am an honest and generous skeleton, I'll give you a few choices. If you voluntarily answer, raise your right hand. If not, raise your left." But Nifrim raised only one hand. He said, "Oh, a wise choice. If you tell me everything you know, I'll grant you a clean and painless death." But unexpectedly, Nifrim withdrew all fingers, except the middle one, a rude gesture. Seeing this, the Death Knight Padric got angry. "Oh heavens, I can't believe I'm being cursed this way." Then he stabbed the sword down, continuing, "I will respect your decision. Die slowly." Immediately, a stabbing sound signaled the sword had pierced down. Blood dripped from the sharp blade, dripping drop by drop. The Death Knight Padric turned and complained, "When will I finally clean up this place? But I guess it'll be easier than before." Nifrim, with the sword embedded, bowed her head down, still placing her hand on Sylvia's body as if comforting her friend. Suddenly a thought flashed. She's gone. Nifrim was not dead yet. Unexpectedly, she opened her eyes with a look of hatred. But Nifrim's gaze then fell with sorrow. She couldn't say or think anything as she looked down at Sylvia's cold face. Sylvia remained bowed like that for a long time, as if bidding farewell to her friend. Nifrim couldn't hold back her grief and said in my heart, "I'm sorry, but I have to survive." Suddenly she opened her mouth wide. Then terrifying sounds of biting and tearing echoed. Padric, hiding behind a large rock, noticed the problem and thought, "Damn, what an annoying sound." I know, there's something hidden behind this. So eating corpses makes her stronger and heals wounds. And her power increases with each meal. Is it limited only to human corpses? What is the origin of this ability, alchemy or magic? The Death Knight Padric still stood there observing the gruesome scene. "There are many corpses here. I should take time to experiment. Anyway, I wonder where the boss is and what he's doing." The Death Knight. Padric clasped his hands together and thought of Swallow Devourer, hoping he's not doing anything strange in some strange place. Cut to Swallow Devourer, who was fighting a group of people. He stood on a huge burning flame, and below was someone else. At this moment, Swallow Devourer was burning those people, and then turned to ask, "Did you come here to die too?" The foot kept stepping forward, replying no. That was Wuin Historia. She clenched her teeth, prepared to fight, and said, "I am Wuin Historia, a hero." But he coldly replied, "I never asked who you are. I like your soul, but you can't defeat me." Wuin Historia resolutely charged forward, thinking even if that's true. This surprised Swallow Devourer a little. Wuin Historia was determined to stop him immediately. She threw a deadly punch, and her whole body emitted powerful Kai energy. But Swallow Devourer gently raised his bare hand to catch Wuin Historia's iron fist. He switched to the offensive, grabbed Wuin Historia's arm, and fiercely said, "Sorry, but you can only attack me once." Swallow Devourer leaned close to her ear and continued, "Keep trying. Try to escape again if you can." Wuin Historia was completely stunned and passive before this absolute power. Then her vision blurred as Swallow Devourer slammed her down onto the ground. Thoughts of Green Historia flashed through her mind. I can't defeat him. Can't defeat. A stream of fresh blood spurted from her mouth. But at least I bought some more time right. I am a hero, and a hero's duty is to protect everyone. Though tortured and in great pain, Wuin Historia still thought of the civilians out there. After a while, blood flowed from her eyes and mouth as she closed her eyes in helplessness. Swallow Devourer lifted her arm and said in surprise, What now?" Suddenly a voice echoed again, "I am a hero, Wuin Historia. I cannot fall like this." Wuin Historia gradually opened her bloodshot eyes. At that moment, halves of Swallow Devourer's face turned into shadow, and strange eyes appeared. Wuin Historia continued to emit her power, and said in broken words, "I cannot let you harm my kind." Then she gathered all her strength into a bare fist and shouted as if to summon power. That fist struck straight into Swallow Devourer's chest. She continued, "I am a hero, so we must protect the innocent." As she spoke, her fist began to expand. Swallow Devourer's voice echoed, "Congratulations, you didn't die. Not bad." Wuin Historia's hand dropped limp. He released her from his grasp and coldly said, "Wuin Historia, I will remember your name, though I'm not sure for how long. With all due respect for your courage, I will grant you a painless death." Then Swallow Devourer raised his foot. Before he could stomp down, a sudden burst of power shot across his neck and then under his foot, startling him. Swallow Devourer quickly glanced over. He saw a group of people dressed like royalty. One of them quickly rescued Wuin Historia from under Swallow Devourer's foot. Feeling annoyed, he rubbed his neck and turned, saying, "Are you sausages or what? You keep coming like a string of sausages." One of them politely replied, "We had to use force to save Lady Wuin. Please forgive our rude actions." Hearing this, Swallow Devourer angrily shouted, "Would you forgive someone who says sorry after hitting you in the back of the head like that?" A polite voice rang out again. "Allow me to introduce myself." Though it was late, he realized he was being ignored. A man among them, with black hair and red eyes, looking quite dangerous, bowed politely and said, "I am the evil god, Vern Hishutalt, a member of the Black Tiger Legion. It is an honor to meet the almighty Lord Swallow." But Hishutalt still placed his hand on his chest and bowed respectfully, saying, "You are mistaken, my lord. We have no intention of opposing you, Lord Devourer. We only wish to make a deal with you." Swallow Devourer's expression twisted further. "What a deal with me, when I have nothing left to regret." His form became increasingly grotesque and terrifying. His voice, like death itself, echoed, "You'd better watch yourself. If you dare insult me, you won't die peacefully, humans." Hishutalt remained calm before the monstrous eyes and huge demonic mouth looming over them. He thought, this is a gamble with the Empire's fate. Then he spoke up. "The original owner of the severed claw is still alive." Swallow Devourer quickly withdrew his grotesque form and focused to listen. Hishutalt looked up confidently and continued, "I'm sure you didn't come all this way just to reclaim the masterpiece of virtue. We are here to offer our assistance." Hearing this, he stepped down from the rubble and asked, "And what if I say I don't need it?" He put his hands into his coat pockets. Then Swallow Devourer coldly asked, "What will happen if I reclaim the severed claw just out of boredom with the real purpose of destroying humanity? What will you do then?" At this, he bumped foreheads with Hishutalt, who broke into a cold sweat, clearly worried. Hishutalt remained calm and said, "If you always destroy everything, then whether there's an offer or not won't change anything, right?" Swallow Devourer asked back, "So you want to avoid humanity's extinction?" Immediately, Swallow Devourer lost control and shouted, "Then go find the owner of this item immediately." His grotesque form began to emerge again. "Yes," Vern Hishutalt replied. "We will do as you say." Then he turned and called Garrot. Garrot quickly responded. "Yes, Lord Hishutalt." Hishutalt asked, "You've met her once, haven't you?" Garrot cautiously replied, "To find someone I need to see the items they once used. Will it be all right if I borrow the severed claw?" Then Swallow Devourer handed over the item and warned, "If you do anything foolish, you won't just lose an arm." Garrot stepped forward and responded, "Yes, I understand." After observing, she spoke up, "I see traces of a few people here. 2 of them appear on the map, standing at 3 main points: the magic headquarters, Hastin Meizo Tower, the Demon King's Castle, and the capital of Riase." Garrot began detailing. "That person is too far to pinpoint exactly, but one is moving westward opposite the Riase Palace." Swallow Devourer was surprised and thought west towards Hastin. Then he said, "That information is enough." Then he thought of Renee's bright, cute smile and called out, "Lord, I feel a burden lifted from my heart," meaning Renee was still alive. Suddenly, Swallow Devourer sighed deeply, causing everyone to feel uneasy. He then walked past the 2 and said, "I owe you. I will remember you 2. Vern Hishutalt replied, "It is an honor to be of service to you." Swallow Devourer moved forward, causing everyone to scatter to clear his path. He said, "Go." Cut to another location where a voice called out, "Lord Swaldo." It was Melja de Limpfagrea, standing before a pile of corpses, tiredly saying, "You're a bit late, my lord." Swallow Devourer stood silently before the corpses, deep in thought. Melja de Limpf. Agrea's face was covered in wounds and blood, but she still smiled brightly and said, "Look, I kept my promise. I've defended the teleportation gate." With that, she released her bloodied hand from the weapon and continued, "I think this is enough to welcome you back." At this point, Meljazelim Agrea collapsed from exhaustion. Swallow Devourer summoned swirling rings to support her and praised, "Yes, that's enough." Meljazelim Agrea then transformed back into a small girl sleeping soundly from exhaustion. Then he stood before the item again, wondering how to use it. "This is for Hastin, and if I channel my mana into a giant glass tube containing a green item inside it appears." The glass showed signs of cracking, surprising him. After it shattered, the contents poured out. Swallow Devourer calmly stood there amazed. At this moment, many question marks appeared in his mind. "What? It can't handle my mana. I was so confident after the transformation stabilized." Thinking further, Swallow Devourer raised the ring on his wrist and wondered if using Demira's mana just to cast magic would allow him to teleport safely. It would probably cause another transformation. But if so, wouldn't that reveal my existence? He was truly puzzled, unsure what to do. Damn, I've stepped onto a path of no return. Suddenly, Padrick's image appeared in his mind, and he bit his lip, closed his eyes tightly, thinking, "It's too late for a peaceful end." Then Swallow Devourer decided to remove the ring. From behind him emerged terrifying black tentacles, their power dark and demonic. At that moment he thought, "Sorry, Padrick." Everything began to shake, rumbling sounds followed by cracking noises. Immediately, the wall shattered into many fragments. Everything crumbled and fell beneath Swallow Devourer's true form's power. Coordinates of Hastin. He opened his heavy eyes to see the magic tower. Cut to a sharp, towering castle under a gloomy sky. A cheerful male voice welcomed, "Welcome to the magic tower. Your identity and origin will be confirmed after a few simple procedures." The person who appeared was Renee. She coldly asked humans, "Can you use teleportation magic?" The gatekeeper enthusiastically replied, "No. Our magic tower hosts countless people from everywhere, so you cannot enter without identity verification." Renee then drew her weapon, startling the gatekeeper. She coldly said, "Looks like you can't escape." Then she decisively eliminated the gatekeeper, fresh blood splattering everywhere. Stepping over the body, she thought back to her first arrival here. The human magic tower was no different from a dungeon. Surely the magic tower was a dungeon created by humans. Her thoughts ended with a massacre Renee calmly carried out, stepping over corpses as blood dripped behind her. They were just weak monsters. Cut to a later time when a pair of bloodied feet appeared. Renee climbed the stairs, thinking she had killed all the humans she saw on the first floor. What remained was the top floor. At that moment, Red Lips spoke up. "Oh my, I was curious who the opponent would be, but isn't this the noble girl from before?" Appearing was a red-haired sorceress who arrogantly asked, "So you're not human?" Renee coldly asked, "Where is the severed claw?" The red-haired sorceress casually replied, "That's my property. There's no reason for me to tell you. But I'm curious." She bent down, staring deeply into Renee's jade-green eyes. Then with her vile lips, she uttered, "How are you still alive?" Renee was now in a battle-ready stance, her face extremely alert and determined. The sorceress showed contempt. "Oh dear, you wield a weapon that doesn't suit your petite face at all. Do you really think you can fight me, the master of the magic tower, with such a tiny knife?" As she spoke, she conjured a magical shield to protect herself. She continued to scorn the one holding the knife. "What do you intend to do with that against me?" But suddenly, a beam of light shot out, cracking the shield into pieces. The sorceress broke into a cold sweat, panicked. "No way. Just one strike, and my shield is shattered. This brat has terrifying power." Renee's eyes narrowed, refusing to even acknowledge her. Yet the sorceress remained confident, thinking, "It's fine. This tower is built on an infinite mana spring. If I can harness this endless mana, I can win." Renee again asked, "Where is my severed claw?" Impatient, she shouted and charged forward. "Speak quickly, you bastard!" The sorceress raised her wand proudly and said, "Unfortunately, that item is no longer here. I've taken it to the auction." She then activated her magic domain. Immediately, a powerful energy circle appeared in the sky and shot downward. The red-haired sorceress placed her hand on her weapon and said, "You seem strong too. So I will use all my power to fight you." She transformed that energy into a sharp spear and launched it. Her attacks continuously split apart the holy shield, and countless magic circles descended on Renee's body. The red-haired sorceress triumphantly shouted, "Try to block all my attacks!" Renee's gaze grew serious. Boom! A loud sound came from near the tower's peak, followed by a huge explosion. Her vision was filled with thick smoke and dust. Then a voice rang out. "Good." The red-haired sorceress said, "Indeed, if you, a monster, dare challenge humanity, you must bear the consequences." Emerging from the smoke was Renee, pierced by countless sharp spears of power, still standing firm, then bent over and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Coughing up a large mouthful of blood, this was one of her high-level spells. Only a few powerful dungeon bosses could endure it. The sorceress broke into a cold sweat, thinking, "But I never expected a little girl like her to still be standing." But suddenly, her two hands disappeared. Fresh blood gushed out. The red-haired sorceress collapsed, screaming in pain. She gritted her teeth, panicked and angry. "It hurts so much. How could my hands?" Meanwhile, Renee moved like a possessed spirit standing beside her. Despite the blood flowing profusely, she calmly looked down and warned, "Those are just your two arms. Don't make a fuss like you're dying human." At this, the red-haired sorceress finally felt fear and begged, "I don't want to die. Please spare me." But Renee quickly kicked her again, causing her to scream in agony once more. Tears streamed down her face, filled with fear and pain. Looking utterly miserable, no longer arrogant as before, she began crying out, "Help me." Then she collapsed to the ground at Renee's feet. Renee thought, "It's over. All traces here have been wiped clean." Then she wondered, "What should I do now?" Her legs gradually grew unsteady. Renee leaned against the nearby wall, thinking about what remained after everything that had happened. "I'm so tired. I want to sleep," she thought as her body slowly slid down. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Leader!" This quickly snapped Renee awake, and she opened her eyes wide. A blue-haired sorcerer ran over and caught the red-haired sorceress anxiously, saying, "How could this happen?" "Please wake up, my lord." "You must live," the red-haired sorceress cried out in pain. "It hurts so much. Heal me." "No, first kill that girl." The blue-haired sorcerer then noticed Renee. Renee was also very cautious, watching him closely. The blue-haired sorcerer produced a blue stone and said, "Please wait, my lord. You're losing too much blood. Do you know what this is?" The red-haired sorceress looked up and replied, "I can't see clearly." The blue-haired sorcerer asked again, "You can't see it?" Then his expression darkened as he said, "This is a teleportation mana stone. One can use it to escape from here, but I don't have enough mana to activate it now. Someone needs to use their mana to activate it." Renee also noticed the stone with strange symbols inside. Then she furrowed her brow, thinking, "That stone looks like the one I saw before. The uneasy feeling rises again when I see it." The stone was pressed against her forehead. After sensing enough, she said, "All right, thank you. Now I can see." But suddenly her eyes became filled with terror. At that moment, dark energies engulfed the red-haired sorceress, causing her to scream in pain. The blue-haired sorcerer stood there with his hands clasped behind his back and said, "Antro, you already have too many enemies. You've lived poorly, so Renee came here to punish you. Everyone in your clan, the Gromans, you must have offended them greatly. That's why they sent me to eliminate you." His expression was extremely dangerous. Then he glanced back at Renee and asked, "Isn't that right?" Renee only looked at him, silently cautious. While the red-haired sorceress was tormented by the dark energy, the man bowed respectfully to Renee and said, "I'm very grateful for what you've done. The one I helped seems not to want to stop and has already targeted me, right?" He opened his dangerously sharp eyes, but the red-haired sorceress's body had already turned into a grotesque mass of flesh. The blue-haired sorcerer said, "This will buy me some time to escape. Goodbye." At that moment, a tail appeared, then an eye, and the sorceress's face transformed into a bizarre monster. Renee remained calm, calculating. "I can't see that clearly. That monster has strong aura. In this state, it's hard for me to fight it. Seems like this is enough for me." The ugly monster then lunged to attack her. Renee seemed ready to give up and muttered 2 words. "So tired. Everything I've done is over now. I will leave here and all traces of me will vanish." But that familiar silhouette appeared again, and Renee thought again, but she clenched her teeth in anger and hissed, "You bastards! Don't you dare touch Lord Devourer with your filthy hands." Her power erupted. Renee stabbed her weapon into an eye and shouted, "Even if I die, I won't forgive you." Immediately, Renee was struck hard by a tentacle. In pain, she gritted her teeth and thought, "If Lord remembers Renee later, will he be sad?" From outside the castle, the large explosion could still be seen continuously. Fortunately, the dark power and familiar eyes appeared right after, along with a warm voice. "Are you all right, Renee?" She was stunned by the situation. The first time Renee was saved by Lord, it was almost the same. A large hand firmly caught Renee. She was nearly exhausted and completely unable to survive. If not for Lord's arrival to save her, no one else could have. Renee was both joyful and moved, calling out, "Lord Devourer! Swallow Devourer!" Set Renee down, she sat there staring at him, wondering, "Why is he here?" Swallow Devourer quietly said, "Wait for me a moment." Then he stood up and turned his back. Renee still couldn't believe it and thought, "Is this an illusion?" He then approached the ugly monster. His cold yellow eyes appeared as he declared, "Bastard, you're too bold. You will pay for your actions." At that moment, his grotesque form began to emerge again, revealing a wide, demonic mouth stretching endlessly in the dark space with black smoke enveloping the area. Swallow Devourer charged forward and split the ugly monster in 2. His body grew more terrifying as he hissed, "Die," followed by disgusting blood spurting out. His power transformed into sharp spikes. They pierced straight through the monster, causing it to scream in pain. But the monster began to twist and contort, trying to deform itself. Those things tried to attack Swallow Devourer, but he couldn't help but feel contempt. Then he decisively lifted the monster up. He slammed it down onto the ground, causing it to writhe in pain as more screams echoed. The ugly monster was now crushed and powerless. Swallow Devourer grabbed it again. Its two small tentacles clung to his hand. Swallow Devourer angrily cursed. Then he decisively smashed it down once more, growling, "You're truly disgusting." Immediately, a blinding explosion erupted in the air. A strange blue blood splattered onto the ground. Swallow Devourer with bloodied hands spoke. "I understand now. I finally understand your regenerative power." The ugly monster lay in a large crater. At this moment, the monster's body continued to sprout small lumps of flesh, looking extremely disgusting. Then it twisted into a distorted form and stood up to face Swallow. He had already concluded that the infinite mana source came from that mana spring. A beam of light and power appeared. Along with other streams of power connecting there, Swallow Devourer still stood calmly and said, "All right." He began to open his mouth wider than usual and said, "Then it's simple." Immediately, a huge mouth appeared beneath the ground where the monster lay, as if ready to swallow it. Nearby were still the huge, angry eyes. A tremor sounded. Then the monster was gone. Turning away, he mocked, "That was hard to swallow. Truly disgusting. Everyone, it's a bit gross that Lord swallowed that monster." After walking a bit, he stopped and pondered. He saw a small girl sitting curled up, hugging her knees, looking pitiful. He couldn't help but call out Renee. Then Swallow Devourer sat down, leaning his back against hers. After sitting, he confessed, "I have many things to say to you, but your mind is completely blank right now. This is my fault." Swallow Devourer hesitated a bit, scratching his head, and asked, "Earlier, I met a blue-haired girl. When I came here, I killed her. That shouldn't affect anything, right?" Renee kept her eyes tightly shut, silent. Swallow Devourer looked into the distance and called Renee. "I'm sorry for what I've done." These words made Renee even sadder, tears welling up in her eyes. She still bowed her head and replied, "You don't need to apologize. It's all my fault." Swallow Devourer was silent and said, "Don't say that. The ancient core needs you. You are very important to me." This made her a bit confused and flustered. Then she said, "Weren't you very angry with me?" Swallow Devourer thoughtfully replied, "No, I wasn't." "You don't hate me anymore, I don't hate you." The two leaned back against each other, their silhouettes clear in the dark. Suddenly, Swallow Devourer stood up and said, "I have something for you." He handed over the item she was searching for and said, "This is what I retrieved." Seeing the familiar item, tears streamed down Renee's face, leaving her speechless. She hugged the item tightly, unable to say more. "Oh." Renee was afraid of the pure tears falling. She cried and panicked, saying, "I was afraid you'd hate me." "You won't abandon me, right?" Swallow Devourer denied. "Don't say that." Then he gently reached out his hand to Renee and said, "Come on, let's return to the ancient core." Cut to another space, perhaps the moment when the two first met and communicated. A voice asked, "Is that a dwarf? I met that girl during the fire at Gripenia. But then I saw her in the lab." Swallow Devourer yawned and replied. The small Renee sat quietly beside Swallow Devourer, who had reverted to his original form. Also standing nearby was Padrick, the Death Knight. Swallow Devourer continued, "Since it's fate, I brought Padrick, the Death Knight, along." Padrick observed her and asked, "So this small body holds all the information and knowledge of the dwarf." In his mind, he further evaluated her calmness despite being in the dungeon of the strongest boss in the ancient core, a place also known as the Demon's Lair due to its dense dark energy, meaning her spirit strength and stamina could face anything. Renee stared intently at Padrick the Death Knight, who then asked Boss, "What do you plan to do with this child?" Swallow Devourer, half asleep, replied, "Let her live here. Seems like this kid is talented. For now, I'll teach her how to fight. If I can't, then let her live peacefully. After all, she used to be a servant, so cooking and such can be her tasks." Images of Renee practicing swordsmanship, flying, and cooking appeared as he spoke. Padrick the Death Knight was sweating nervously. "Wait, boss, are you serious? Who wants to teach her?" Swallow Devourer casually pointed at him and said, "You, of course." His expression clearly surprised Padrick. Swallow Devourer said, "Cheer up. You still can't refuse, right?" "Why me? He propped his chin and said casually, "Come on, don't pretend to be cold. Aren't you bored with nothing to do?" Patrick replied helplessly. Well, that's true, but in his mind he continued to evaluate Renee as a homunculus, meaning her physical abilities would surpass humans, and he still harbored some subconscious resentment toward humanity. Thinking he was somewhat resigned, he turned and asked Boss, "Do you know her name?" Swallow Devourer lay on the ground, dazed, and replied, "A what?" "I vaguely remember hearing it the first time we met." Suddenly a voice called out L-E-W. Patrick the Death Knight heard the voice and showed clear surprise as if thinking, "It can talk." Renee then tried to read her name L-E-L, Patrick. The Death Knight was surprised and asked, "Is that the full name? Just one word." E-L. Swallow Devourer sighed. "What else do you want?" "You can't hear. I suggest you're her master, so why not give her a new name?" He scratched his face, thinking, let me see. Then he came up with a name, "Call her Renee." Upon hearing this name, her eyes brightened with a little sparkle. Patrick the Death Knight praised good. So the child's name is Renee Lello. But by then, Swallow Devourer had already fallen asleep again, leaving Patrick helpless. He's asleep again. Then Patrick the Death Knight sat beside her and called out, surprising her a little. "All right, Renee." He used 2 of his bony fingers to lift the corners of her mouth and cheerfully said, "First learn how to smile." Back to the present. Patrick. The Death Knight's face looked quite scary. "Wow, you can still smile in this situation. What the hell are you doing in Haston that the ground is shaking like this? Are you hip-hopping in the village or what?" Swallow Devourer, sweating and helpless, said, "Monsters' lives always have exceptions." Patrick. The Death Knight pointed at the small Melje de Limfef, Agria in his arms, and asked, "What's that exception?" He replied helplessly, "It's a long story." Then Patrick. The Death Knight nervously exclaimed, "Wait, boss, did you kidnap a child?" Swallow. Devourer gently placed the drooling, sleeping girl on the ground and dryly replied, "Do you really think I like to invite trouble?" Hearing this, he asked again, But where's Renee? Why did you bring this child back?" Swallow Devourer then sat down heavily and said, "That." He looked at his reflection in a puddle and continued, "I met Renee in a human village." Patrick the Death Knight fell silent for a moment. He then asked with concern, "So you've met her? Is she injured?" He replied sadly, "She looks very tired. Perhaps we have disrupted Renee's life." Patrick the Death Knight turned away and said, "If you get rejected, just say it straight. Why be so sentimental?" Hearing this made him even more distressed. He held his head sad and unsure what to do. Then he hesitantly offered a suggestion. "From now on, you'll have to wear a maid outfit to manage this dungeon." Swallow. Devourer winked mischievously as he said this. Patrick the Death Knight confidently handed over a piece of paper and said, "I'm ready to resign." Then he sighed and asked, "So what do you plan to do now?" Swallow Devourer casually said, "There's nothing left to do. But I'll wait, I guess, because I don't know when she'll return." He said this with a sigh, lying down, exhausted. Patrick the Death Knight nodded. "I understand." In his mind, he thought, walking around like this, it's best to leave her alone. She might be very lonely, but after some time, suddenly his footsteps stopped. Then a hurried voice called out, "Boss!" He was lying down, but perked up his small ears to listen. Seeing a figure emerge from the dark dungeon, Patrick the Death Knight exclaimed, "She's back!" Swallow Devourer was startled and asked, Who do you think? The one you've been waiting for." Just then Renee appeared dressed in a cute maid outfit, but one of her eyes had turned a bright yellow looking. Very special. She shyly called Lord Swallow. "Haven't you eaten yet? If not, would you like me to prepare some dishes?" Patrick the Death Knight also noticed her yellow eye. Then he turned as if to ask the boss, but saw Swallow Devourer still looking back, confused. Observing his expression, he thought, has he gone mad to give her that? Or did he really give her that item while not fully conscious? Recalling their recent first meeting, Swallow Devourer asked, Your right eye is completely destroyed. Right, if you can still see, you must know. He said if you still have that feeling, and still keep the stone. I don't care when Renee was holding her injured eye. Then he raised 2 fingers to one of his eyes, thinking carefully. He then placed them over Renee's eye and said, "Now give me your love next time." Anyone watching would know what he meant. Back to the present, Renee smiled brightly and said, "From now on, I will always be by your side." Cut to some time later with drops of water falling. The drops fell on Melia de Lymph Agrea's forehead, causing her to cry out. After waking up rubbing her eyes, she wondered where she was and what had happened. Seeing Padric the Death Knight sharpening his knife nearby, Melia de Lymph Agrea was startled and terrified. She trembled and cried out, "Am I dead? Are you the Grim Reaper? Is this Hell Padric?" The Death Knight explained. Sorry, this isn't the underworld. This place is the ancient core." Hearing this, she was amazed and exclaimed in surprise. She pointed at him and said, "So you're not the Grim Reaper, but Padric." He replied, "You're quick-witted." Then Padric stood up, turned away, and said, "I don't know if he's awake yet." Then he decisively kicked hard and called out loudly, "Boss, wake up!" At that moment, Swallow Devourer yawned and woke up replying, "I was sleeping well. What now?" After seeing Melia de Lymph Agrea, he said, "Oh, you're awake." Melia de Lymph Agrea was startled upon seeing his true form and exclaimed, "Oh, you are!" Then she couldn't help but rush out of her den, kneeling down and saying loudly, "Great Lord, Master of the ancient core and incarnation of creation, protector of gods, punisher of cowards, supreme ancient monster Lord Devourer." But Melia de Lymph Agrea kept sweating nervously and awkwardly said, "Your Majesty, no, pardon me, let me introduce myself." Then both she and Swallow Devourer read out the same information. 17th descendant of the Demon King Melia de Lymph Agrea, he said calmly. I know your name already." She was shocked. "How do you know my name?" Swaldo told you she thought of Swallow Devourer's human form. Then Melia de Lymph Agrea kept looking around and asked, "By the way, have you seen Swaldo? I remember he punished humans in Riatse and reclaimed the severed claw." Swallow Devourer, seeing there was nothing to hide helplessly, replied, "That's me." Hearing this, she became confused. "What Lord Devourer? What did you say?" Swallow Devourer propped his chin, looked at her, and said again, "I am Swaldo." Melia de Lymph Agrea was shocked, her surprise turning to fear, sweating profusely. In her heart she wanted to scream, "Damn it, I was disrespectful to Lord Devourer." While Melia de Lymph Agrea was terrified, Padric called out "Boss, boss" about the Demon King Meow. His eyes shone brightly, full of resentment and indignation, questioning why Lord punished humans in Riaze without telling him. "I know." Swallow Devourer broke into a cold sweat, unsure how to respond. "Well," then he said, "Follow me." Yes. The two entered the dungeon. Cut to Grappenia Forest, the border of Hastings territory. It was a dense forest with lush vegetation. Suddenly a voice laughed. "Ha ha, what's this?" A man in front picking herbs excitedly said, "They said it's forbidden to enter, but nothing happens. This forest has many herbs and mushrooms." Suddenly a noise caught his attention. Someone's here and they're badly injured. Before him lay a wounded person face down, barely breathing. The herb picker hurriedly placed his lamp on the ground and said, Wait, I have herbs here." Suddenly the injured person gasped, "It's here!" It turned out to be Nifrim. She suddenly grabbed the herb picker like a wild beast. Then a spray of fresh blood hit the lamp, signaling that an unfortunate person had passed away due to mistaken kindness. After recovering, Nifrim covered herself completely and walked like a ghost. She approached a fortress wall, muttering, "I have to go." The dungeon was a battlefield. To survive, one needed many qualities. Suddenly a voice said, "If you are the true Demon King, then behave properly, Melje. One of those qualities is calmness." It turned out the voice belonged to Renee. She raised her hand to signal silence to Melje, then whispered, Renee has reminded you many times silence in Lord Devourer's room is the most basic rule. But Melja seemed to dislike that. She was very annoyed and frowned, retorting, "No, I won't accept that. I am a free monster." Melja de Lymph. Agria spoke loudly before becoming the Demon King. I lived in the ancient core. I came here to talk to Lord Devourer. The two girls lunged at each other, struggling. Renee continued to emphasize, "Lord Devourer is resting." Hearing that Melje confidently pointed at herself and arrogantly said, "That's exactly what I need. I intend to stay by his side and warm him until he falls asleep." In this regard, Renee was too conservative and passive. Then Melje pointed at Renee with contempt. "She's clearly old-fashioned." Renee froze, then trembled with anger. Old-fashioned. This provoked Renee's spirit. She grabbed her weapon and chased Melja, angrily cursing, "I'll take you down." Melja was not afraid and stuck out her tongue, laughing, "Ha ha ha." Renee's face darkened like the bottom of a pot. She growled, "Come here, hurry up." Teasing Renee made Melja laugh happily and stick out her tongue. Trying to keep the hostility at a minimum, Padrick heard the noise outside and was speechless. He thought to himself, this really is like hell. Devourer lay weakly behind him and said, "Padrick, they're too noisy. I can't sleep." He immediately replied, "You don't have the right to say that. Thanks to someone, it's chaotic outside." Devourer slowly turned his head, puzzled. "Why is it so bad?" This answer displeased Padrick. "You haven't read the newspapers I gave you, have you?" Still, he explained to him. It seemed that due to troop deployments to strengthen defenses in Riaze border villages were being ravaged by monsters. Devourer sighed after hearing this. Padrick added, "Also the Lord of Hastin has committed suicide, so Hastin is now completely paralyzed." Devourer listened thoughtfully. "That's serious." Holding a stack of newspapers, Padrick slowly continued. "I've read all the papers for the past 3 weeks, but only 3 articles mention Hastin." Then he stared at Devourer and asked, "Do you know what that means?" He looked confused and answered, no." His words made Padrick angry but helpless. He just clenched the newspaper tightly. Then he scolded him. "Do you even think before you speak? If not, I'm submitting my retirement application." Devourer was truly panicked and hurriedly stopped him. "Oh, sorry. Please forgive me, Padrick." After a tiring moment, Devourer sat up, yawned loudly, and asked, "So what do you think, Padrick?" He replied, "I'm not sure. Without information, nothing can be confirmed." Without information, nothing can be confirmed. He also speculated, based on the current situation, I guess Hastin has been cut off from the outside. "You're the monster destroying the village, so you must remember how much damage you caused." Devourer broke into a cold sweat, then feigned ignorance. "Yeah, Padrick knows I'd say that." He continued, "A village is being severely destroyed and suddenly goes silent. That's definitely not good news. But the core of the ancient core needs Hastin. If I can keep an eye on Hastin, I'll know the size of the invading force and when they'll attack." Padrick imagined a map of the ancient core with Hastin separated by Grapinia Forest. His eyes suddenly brightened. "The only way I can think of is to hurry to Hastin. Waiting any longer will have unpredictable consequences." Devourer thought it made sense, lying down slowly and replying, "Right. Safe travels. Don't overdo it." He silently hoped. "Please go alone. Just go alone." Padrick thought Devourer would make him go along. But no, he just left, not forgetting to tell Devourer, "Then I'll return as soon as possible, sir." He didn't expect Padrick to say that. Then he thought, "Just send him off. Then I can sleep." He lay down, intending to continue sleeping, when Padrick's voice rang out again. He turned his head and stared coldly at Devourer, saying, "Don't you think I'll suffer alone? I think it'd be better if at least one more person goes." He was so scared he jumped up, stammering, "What, wait." Then he accidentally saw Renee and Melje fighting. Melja de Lymph. Agrea, looking confused, asked, "What's wrong?" Devourer thought to himself, Melje is dangerous. If compared to magic, she's like explosive magic. If she used magic like in the capital, the whole village would be destroyed. Thinking this, he felt uneasy and shook his head. Then, next was candidate number 2, Renee, who smiled and said, "Let Renee go." Melia, standing beside her, blushed and complained, "Renee, let me go." Devourer broke into a cold sweat, remembering Renee fighting with a sword. No, she's fine here. Renee must be explosive magic. Stay put, that's helping me. So please stay here." At this moment, Padrick spoke up. "Since we don't know how long it will take, why don't you come with me?" He said this with a sincere and affectionate tone. Devourer was in a tough spot, headache, and deep in thought. Maybe because he waited too long, Padrick urged him. He imagined himself as a fish caught in a net by fisherman Padrick, crying miserably inside. I'm trapped. I can't deny it anymore. I've been dragged along." Then Devourer came up with a plan. "Seems like I'm the best choice in this situation, but unfortunately I can't transform because I accidentally broke the Demira bracelet." Padrick slowly replied, "Oh really? If you don't have the bracelet, you can't come with me." Hearing that, Devourer brightened up. He happily thought, "That works. I don't have to go. I can sleep." But in the end, Devourer still transformed into his human form and went with Padrick. His face was dark and exhausted as he said, "Turtle, you'll surely die in pain." Padrick laughed, shaking when he saw him like that. "Even if you curse me, I'm already dead," Devourer replied tiredly. "Not to mention that." Padrick looked down at the bracelet on his right wrist and said, "You said earlier that without the Demira bracelet you couldn't come with me. In other words, if you have it, you can leave immediately, right?" Padrick replied affectionately. Devourer shouted helplessly, "That's not what I meant, you bastard!" Finally, the two arrived at the village. Padrick said, "We're here, boss. You've caused quite a stir." They both pushed open the door and entered. He said, "Boss, there are 4 ways to know how a village is doing." Devourer asked curiously, "What are they?" Padrick answered. "The first way is to see if the market is bustling." He whispered, "It's deserted. I'm leaving." Then he continued, "The second way is to see how much smoke is coming from chimneys. I should have checked before dinner, but I'm too late." Devourer grumbled, "It's too late, so I'm leaving." Seeing him about to leave, Padrick annoyedly stepped forward, grabbed his coat, and pulled him along. The third way is to see how many patrol teams are on the mission board, but Hastin doesn't have one, so ignore that. Devourer grumbled, "Fine, let's go." Finally, the inn and tavern. He dragged him to a nearby tavern. Padrick said, "Today we but looked down and didn't see him." Swallow Devourer walked ahead and said, "What are we waiting for?" "Let's go, Padrick," he thought tiredly. "What kind of person is this?" He pushed open the tavern door and loudly said, "Innkeeper, do you have a guest room?" At the same time, Padrick said, "But I think we shouldn't expect much." In front of them was a chaotic mess. Padrick cursed, "Damn it!" His eyes became sinister and deadly. This is the worst case. This village was no longer an ordinary village. Elsewhere, the corpses of villagers lay scattered around, all dying in extreme pain. Suddenly, a raindrop fell, and soon a heavy rain poured down on the corpses. The rain increased, worsening the decay of the corpses. A man stood above, looking down, and said, "Everyone, good work." Then, with a scheming look and mysterious tone, he said, "After sweeping Hastin, we will move to the capital Riaze, the enemy's central territory. Humanity is weaker than ever before, facing a dark disaster." A white lightning bolt struck powerfully, its light illuminating the area. His terrifying face appeared clearly. This is the perfect time to destroy the Empire. At the deserted inn, tables and chairs were overturned. Who would have thought the inn would be so empty? A man in iron armor spoke. "It seems Hastin is isolated now." A mysterious person replied, "I am the owner of this inn." Padrick was surprised and stood up to leave. The innkeeper curiously asked, "Who are you?" He was scared, trembling, as he tightly gripped the knife at his waist. "What is your purpose here?" Seeing the innkeeper's fearful expression, Padrick softened his voice. "I am a knight of the Black Dog Expeditionary Guild, Pitagian, from Riaze." He thought to himself that the innkeeper suspected they might be here to attack him. Seeing the innkeeper still wary, Padrick added, "I just want a simple meal and a place to rest." Hearing this, the innkeeper relaxed and warmly welcomed them. "Ah, a customer. I apologize." The innkeeper slowly descended the stairs and said, "But we don't have enough food for a night. Actually, no place in this village has food anymore." Hearing this, Padrick's mind raced. Is this because of that dark disaster? The innkeeper, noticing Padrick's embarrassment, scratched his head. So you know about it too." The innkeeper broke into a cold sweat. "Sorry, but we don't have any rooms available now. I hope you understand." Padrick rubbed his chin, thinking, "Wow. In this situation, the water fee must be more expensive than the room fee." Finishing his thought, Padrick generously threw a gold coin to the innkeeper. "Take this." The innkeeper hurriedly caught the coin. Surprised, "Oh, you're so generous," Padrick reminded him. "Aren't you going to prepare the room?" He spread his hand, and the innkeeper was shocked to see the shining gold coin in his palm. Receiving the gold coin, the innkeeper became respectful and said, "Please this way upstairs." As the innkeeper bowed, his eyes suddenly glinted with suspicion. He asked, "Excuse me, but who is the person behind you?" Noticing the innkeeper's suspicious gaze, Devourer showed attitude. "What about me?" Padrick turned and explained, "He is my servant." Then a "huh" was heard. Padrick ignored it. Still confused, and continued explaining to the innkeeper, "I say, servant, but he helps me a lot, so I treat him well." Devourer stood nearby, uncomfortable. Padrick continued, "So I let my servant stay in the same room with me." "Right, where is our room? Tell me." Finally, the innkeeper led them to the room. Entering, Devourer excitedly said, "Oh ho ho, the room is nicer than I thought." Devourer quickly claimed the bed next to him, saying, "I'll take this bed. It's better than the one I had with Melia and in Riase." Padrick happily agreed. "Yes, it's a nice room. All right, I'll leave her here." Seeing Padrick fidgeting, he became curious. "What are you doing?" But thinking back, he really couldn't think of anything beyond servant at that time. Padrick advised gently, "It's not that you can't think of anything better. Obviously, even I think so. The clothes you're wearing are the most comfortable for you, right? If you keep dressing sloppily like that, others will treat you like a beggar. Maybe sulking and being treated like a beggar isn't so bad." Padrick teased, "If you act like a beggar, you won't know when others will pick a fight with you or how they'll attack. But since slaves are their master's property, it's not easy to touch them. Since you don't even care about your clothes, I think it's reasonable to consider you a slave, right?" At this point, Padrick seemed to recall something and shouted, "Hey boss! Why do you go on missions like you're not really going?" He angrily yelled louder, "What else? In my next life, I'll be reborn as a rock!" Padrick gently arranged things and said, "Then it's best if I say it and you listen," Devourer replied. "Only right, master." Padrick turned his back and went outside. "I'll be out for a bit. Rest up, boss." Devourer lazily replied, "It's only the first day. I advise you not to overdo it." Padrick stepped out the door, then turned and waved at Devourer. "You don't need to worry about me too much, boss. After all, it's late at night now. Where can we go that we're not allowed?" Under the silent, starry sky at Hastin, Padrick stood deep in thought, considering that the dark disaster descending on most of Hastin was because the royal family was outraged and surely needed someone to take responsibility for the repeated failures of the ancient core expeditions. Harshen stood on the Lord's castle, hands on hips, muttering, "You destroyed it beautifully." Then thoughts flooded in when the royal family intervened. The Lord of Hastin, Count Etark, had already died. Padrick looked at the book he was reading and wondered, "So who is the current Lord of Hastin? I'm curious." Padrick rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Clearly the royal family has lost favor and will target the noble families to vent their anger. If that's the case, will Count Etark's heir inherit his title?" Padrick put on his hat and said, "Well, maybe I should go see what the new lord looks like." Just entering the castle, Padrick encountered soldiers guarding the gate. "Trouble already." The guards patrolled every corner. Padrick thought the guards here are stricter than I expected. Padrick hid behind a wall. He could kill or knock them out, but doing so would only cause more trouble by morning, right? After thinking it over, Patrick decided to leave. That's enough for today. Haste makes waste. Patrick hurriedly ran, thinking, when I get there, I already have a plan. Running, he thought humans might not sense it, but I do. Standing before a dark dungeon, Patrick was stunned. Who would have thought the smell of corpses would be so strong here? He left quickly. Cut to the main character lying down. Tea in the dungeon is cool and sleep is good, but coming out now and then isn't bad. While chilling, someone knocked on the door. The main character cursed silently. But they never let him sleep well. Outside, the innkeeper called out, Sir Knight, Sir Knight, are you in there? Devourer, annoyed by the persistent innkeeper, stood up and went out to talk. Master out for a late-night stroll. Yes, can you come downstairs for a bit? It's a bit earlier than usual, but I've prepared dinner. The innkeeper smiled. Every innkeeper knows that starving guests is something no innkeeper would ever do. Besides, the knight had paid generously, so at least I must reciprocate with my heart. By the way, we haven't introduced ourselves properly. Just call me Novin. I'm Swaldo. The two walked and talked. Right, Swaldo, I hope you won't be disappointed when you get downstairs. There isn't much food left, so I made what I could. Is the situation really that bad here? The innkeeper looked sad. It must be truly like a disaster for people to call it that. Those who witnessed the plague went mad immediately. The innkeeper's face darkened. Right after that, the Lord took his own life. The innkeeper continued. And as you've seen, all communication and traffic to Hastin have been cut off. No one can enter or leave. Outside the walls, the starving dead lie scattered all over the streets. I don't know why you came here or what you're looking for, but you'd better leave as soon as possible. By the way, you know I'm about to do the same. Going down the stairs, the innkeeper continued. Swaldo, you surely know better than anyone. Devourer followed silently, unsure what to say or what would happen next. Cut to somewhere else. A small, skinny pair of legs climbed through a window. When people are cornered, the little girl with orange hair recklessly stood on the window, ready to jump. Rosalina quickly jumped through the window. She stepped into the room. She moved cautiously and quietly, grimacing as she said, Good. She looked into the distance inside the room, thinking, if they see the village's condition and still choose to stay, they must be outsiders. Besides, this is the most expensive room in the inn. She clenched her fist and smiled slyly. They must have a lot of money. She glanced at the bed and said, I have to take everything I can sell for money. Then she approached the bed and lifted a shirt. The shirt smelled bad and made her uncomfortable. Is this clothing or a rag? Are the guests here not rich? She took the shirt and sighed. Whatever, if I keep it, I can use it to wrap things instead of a cloth bag. She opened the chest, which was empty. She exclaimed in surprise. Huh? Why is it empty? She gritted her teeth and frowned. Oh no, did they take everything and leave? Without hesitation, Rosalina rushed to rummage through the drawers. Suddenly she found something and said, That's right. They can't have taken everything, can they? She held the item up, startled. What is this? Scene shifts to a room. Swallow Devourer lay on the bed. The Death Knight approached and said, I'm back, boss. I went to scout the Lord's castle. What are you doing? Swallow Devourer replied. I've been like this since earlier, my lord. The Death Knight removed his mask and said softly, I planned to check the new lord's face, but the guards there are stricter than I thought, so I had to return empty-handed. Boss, did you discover anything? Swallow Devourer immediately replied. What else do you expect from me? I was just asking. Swallow Devourer continued. It seems Hastin has been isolated from the outside world. Besides that, even the innkeeper doesn't know much. The Death Knight shouted, Oh my, what's wrong with you? Can you really do anything? I'm shocked. Then the Death Knight eagerly approached the bed. So that's it. Hastin is isolated. Tomorrow I'll investigate further. Go alone, he coldly replied. The Death Knight insisted. We have to go together, right? Then the Death Knight turned to the window and reminded, Oh right, boss, please close the windows as much as possible. When I left, only one window was open, but now both are open. At this rate, we'll get robbed. He was surprised. What are you talking about? I didn't touch the windows. The Death Knight laughed awkwardly. Ha ha, come on, boss. You can't blame the wind for opening the windows. Do you really think it was the work of ghosts? He shook his head. I don't know, ghosts or thieves. Someone must have opened the windows. The Death Knight was shocked. Then he rushed to rummage through the wardrobe. Swallow Devourer hurried over, surprised. It's gone. My cloak is no longer here. Renee, that cloak was made by her for me. The Death Knight was also stunned. It's gone. My things are missing too. Did you see what I left in the drawer? Swallow Devourer turned and asked, What did you lose? The Death Knight sadly replied, My rib bone. Outside on the road, Rosalina ran quickly with the stolen goods on her shoulder. She panted, Phew, this should be enough. Suddenly, someone stepped in front of her and arrogantly called her name, Rosalina. Kid, why are you out so late? He said in a tone I told you not to wander around after dark. Rosalina replied, I have a good reason. This time it's for everyone. Thoth laughed and said, What for? Everyone. He pointed and shouted, Is it really worth wasting your energy and making yourself hungrier for everyone? No, it's not. Here, take this, she quickly explained. At that moment, the leader stepped forward and said, Thoth, don't be so harsh. Rosalina saw him and said, Leader, you're awake, Thoth added. The leader pulled out a chair and said, A thief shouldn't fear the dark. There's no reason to be angry about this. Thoth replied but said nothing else and wandered off. This is clearly a mistake. The leader also spoke, Things are chaotic enough. You need to think before acting. If you do whatever you want, you'll cause trouble for others. He emphasized, This place isn't like your old home that warmly welcomed you. She replied, Yes, I will be careful, leader. I think I understand. Rosalina, the leader added. Then she said, Wait for me a moment. She held out the rib bone and said, Look. The leader asked, Did you steal it? Yes, leader, I felt I should contribute a little for everyone, she replied. He frowned and asked, Where did you get it? She answered excitedly, You know it's from the inn on the main street. I got it from a super expensive room. It was very clean and carefully stored in a cabinet, so it must be a valuable antique. The leader rubbed his face helplessly and said, Rosalina, this is... He emphasized a human rib bone. She was shocked. Wait, this is a human rib bone. I didn't know that. It really is, Thoth asked. Could it be from grave robbing? No, she shouted. The leader held up the rib bone and said, It can't be from a grave. If it were, you wouldn't proudly show it off like this. She replied, That's right. The leader explained further. This bone might be used for someone's cruel hobby or due to magic. Thoth asked, Does anyone collect human rib bones? The leader retorted, This world is full of scum who chop off slaves' limbs as decorations. It's impossible to know if this is human bone or from someone who was once human. He held it and asserted, If it belongs to someone who studied necromancy or dark magic, it's even more dangerous. He touched the clothes and said, It's definitely suspicious. Not to mention the clothes look like old rags a beggar would wear. He picked it up in surprise, but it's made from the highest quality fabric. He looked into the bag and exclaimed, This kid, Rosalina, is so careless, she didn't even check inside the bag. He pulled out a pile of gold coins. She was surprised. How much gold is that? The leader, Thoth, hesitated. This amount is... The leader shouted, You fools, this is no time to be happy. But I went through so much trouble to get it. Outside, a voice echoed, This time we've come to the right place, boss. Guests at a luxury inn in a ruined village. I should have noticed earlier. The voice continued, Looks like the valuables are still intact. The leader thought human rib bones clothes made from expensive fabric, a large amount of gold. We've stirred up something unpredictable. At this moment, Swallow Devourer slowly appeared. The Death Knight beside him said, Greetings, thieves. We're here to take back what's ours.